Enter a world of perilous dungeons and epic journeys. Meet Eon, an aspiring adventurer, and his legendary mentor, Tor. Together with the world's strongest adventurers, they face the daunting Mad Gate, but an insane god's machinations threaten to disrupt their quest. Trust will be tested and sacrifices will be made. Join Eon on a thrilling adventure where dreams come at a price. A blue-haired boy stands in front of a dazzling portal, awing at the sight. With his sword sheathed and his allies surrounding him, he marches on into the light. Inside, when he sees the strongest adventurers defeat fearsome monsters, he can't help but be envious. Looking on at their dauntlessness and insurmountable power, he is left wondering only one thing: how can I become like them? These powerful adventurers that have the boy completely starstruck are known as the Four Horsemen. Nah, the simping goes crazy. Leaping forward at a monstrous dragon with her blade is the crimson-haired Alexandria, brutalizing the creature with one clean blow. Having the world adventurer rank of 4, her fierce personality is unmatched. Her extraordinary feat is followed by a fang-toothed beast of a man, who strikes his 4-pronged fork into the ground and lets out a purple burst of energy, sending the massive horde of goblins flying. This is Silenus, having the world adventurer rank of 5. While the boy is dazzled by the prowess of these members of the Horsemen, he is told by a brown-haired knight-like person to not drool over them so much and embarrass him. This is Tor, the world adventurer rank 3. The blue-haired boy named Eon, being Tor's personal assistant, apologizes to him for being so giddy about it, remarking that with the world's strongest being right in front of him, he can't help but get excited. Dude, get a grip. Be cool. Having an optimistic smile on his face, Eon tells Tor that he wants to become just like him and the others one day, while the latter praises the boy about his dream being a worthy one. Silenus and Alexandria come marching there. The girl asks Eon if he has any mana potions left, while the man just wants to know if he brought along his snacks. Ah, classic men behavior. Of course, being a good personal assistant, the boy goes through his inventory and brings out a mana potion, along with a drumstick. Going off on the boys, the fierce Alexandria scolds Silenus for snacking at such a time and reprimands Tor and Eon for lounging around. She asks the two if they plan on only watching the entire time and think that the S+ rank dungeon is just a joke. Just then, a giant armored figure with glimmering hair shows up, being Arian, the world adventurer rank 2 and the last of the Horsemen. He remarks that the dungeon doesn't really feel like it's S+ rank. They're really suffering from success. Huh. All the others agree with him, as the monsters seem to go down pretty easily. This supposed S+ rank dungeon doesn't even feel like it would qualify for being an S rank one, having monsters that are closer to A rank. This is confusing, as the Emperor himself had raided the dungeon and labeled it the Mad Gate. They said the thing. Arian thinks that it must be dangerous if 4 of the strongest adventurers were ordered to clear the dungeon, especially since they all felt the aura of an infernal lord at the entrance. With a worried look on his face, Jan wonders about this entity. An infernal lord is one of the 3 kings that created the monsters and the dungeons that host them. No one has ever met this being before, but if the S+ rank dungeon is really as dangerous as it was made out to be, then one might be here. Don contemplates what he is going to do if an infernal lord shows up, given that he can't even kill one of the dungeon's monsters on his own. Seeing the boy with such an expression, Tor tells him that he recognizes that scared face as he has been his assistant for years now. The man assures the boy that he has never let anything happen to him on their missions before, and that isn't going to change now. Being guaranteed Tor's protection, Jan thanks him. Ah, what good friends. Surely nothing goes wrong with them, right? Right then, a massive shower of flames comes crashing down behind the group, revealing a monstrous beast made of volcanic substances. The creature announces, "You have come seeking the treasure of the Mad Gate, but none of you understand its true nature. Here, only madness is rewarded." Elsewhere in a whirling pool of galaxies, a mysterious figure sits atop a throne. With a grin on his face, he removes his hat, excited to see who makes it. The 4 horsemen stand prepared before the mighty beast, while Ewan seems to cower away. Alexandria pulls up her sword, remarking how that's more like it. As she readies herself to take on the dungeon boss, the volcanic being makes his move. Suddenly, the ground below the girl shatters, erupting into a burst of lava. Caught completely by surprise, Eon is unable to move. Does Bro even do anything? Luckily for him, Tor notices this just in time. Holding his weapon in one hand, the horseman leaps to the rescue of his personal assistant. He grabs the boy and gets him out of harm's way, revealing that the dungeon can manipulate the earth. Being carried away to safety, Jan can't help but be shocked at the tremendous pace of things, knowing that he would already be dead if it wasn't for Tor. Dude has a personal knight in shining armor. With a dismayed look on his face, the boy then calls for Alexandria. "Shut the hell up." A ferocious voice shouts out from amidst the endless screams of smoke. Out comes the girl, yelling to not piss her off even more than she already is. As she charges at the fearsome foe, Jan feels relieved that his comrade is alive and kicking, reminding his personal assistant that they are the Four Horsemen. Tor assures him that an attack like that won't be enough to take down Alex. However, he's a bit concerned as taking down the monstrous flaming creature standing before them would need a lot of power to do so. Coming down towards the rest of his allies, Tor proclaims that it's time to take the offensive. He tells Eon that he's going to have to let him go for now, but that you mustn't worry as they will kill this thing before it has the chance to get the boy. Getting motivated by his sir's words, Eon leaves for the ground, convinced that it will all be okay as long as Tor says so. However, he ends up snapping his ankle upon landing and bursts into tears, as the boy holds his leg in immense agony. A giant flaming projectile comes flying towards him. They got nukes. This time, it is Silenus who protects Eon by stopping the attack in its way by his giant four-pronged fork. The ferocious man then assumes a stance as if he is going to throw his weapon, confusing the boy as their foe is a volcanic creature. Silenus throws the fork bound with a purple aura at the dungeon boss, striking it at the torso. Sure enough, it goes right through the monster and lands on the other side. However, that was the intent all along, coming into contact with the ground beneath the beast. The four-pronged fork explodes with a massive burst of energy, shattering the area it landed on. Getting his grounding removed right from under him, the dungeon boss sinks into the floor. Arian then arrives there, commending Silenus for his good aim, letting out an ominous green aura. To the point of almost being black, the armor-clad horseman calls out, "Death's grip." Suddenly, a dark shadow appears on the battlefield, looking exactly like the dungeon boss. Having been formed out of Arian's skill, the shadow envelops the flaming monster and renders it unable to move, while the beast is made to stay still. Alexandria comes rushing there. Shouting out to not forget about her, the girl announces that she is going to rip the giant shit to shreds. Oof, she making me feel things with the feistiness. Alexandria puts her feet into the ground and jumps forward, cutting up the dungeon boss's arms into stakes with her masterful sword skills. Looking on from above, Tor brings up his hammer, remarking how easy his fellows have made things for him. As lightning starts enveloping him and enlarges his weapon, the adventurer can't help but grin. He proclaims that the perfect target is one that can't move and comes crashing down the beast's head with his gigantic hammer. Sparks fly everywhere and smoke encapsulates the battlefield, leaving the Four Horsemen standing tall as the victors. Eon looks on, utterly awestruck. While the adventurers banter, the boy can't help but be impressed at how the four of them took down a dungeon boss that powerful like it was nothing. Though at this moment, he feels bad about himself and can't help but think that he just got in the way. "I really am useless," Jan mutters with a disappointed look. Bro's going through his depression arc. Just then, an ominous voice congratulates the adventurers for their feat, announcing that they are as greedy as always for coming to claim his power and riches. Belonging to the Infernal Lord, the voice informs the Four Horsemen that they are very close, left with only one phase left between them and his dungeon's gift. Telling them that they all seem like such good friends, the Infernal Lord invites them to play a game. An altar covered by a purple cloth reveals itself, followed by the Infernal Lord instructing the Four Horsemen that the game will decide which of them will die. Picked amongst themselves, the person they choose is to be sacrificed on the altar, with the dungeon's gifts locking away forever if they fail to play the game. While Iam is overcome with a despaired look, the figure in the other realm pulls out 2 Joker cards and proclaims, "Let's have some real fun. Shit's about to go down." With the Infernal Lord's words about one of them deserving to die still echoing in his mind, Jan asks Tor if they should just leave the dungeon. The boy hesitantly remarks that they wouldn't want it to close and trap them here when he notices something. His sir isn't even looking him in the eyes, as if overcome by a strong guilt. As he stares at his boss with disappointed eyes, Arian tells him that Tor understands what must be done. He proclaims that they are the Four Horsemen, the irreplaceable heroes of the world, while Eon is just Tor's errand boy of which he can always get another one. These words stab the boy like a knife, who panics and starts swinging around his sword, asking the Four Horsemen if they are all insane. Jan can't believe that they would sacrifice him just for the promise of the dungeon's gifts. He tells them that they are heroes who are supposed to be protecting the innocent, not murdering them. While the boy pours his heart out, the adventurers just look at him with indifference. Dudes would rather murder Bro than listen to him right now. That's got hurt. Tears flowing down his face, Eon informs the four horsemen that he looked up to all of them and asks how could they do this, wondering if they really think that all the power in the world is worth what they are about to do. Suddenly, a blade pierces through the boy's chest. It is none other than Tor himself, who proclaims with an unforgiving voice, "Yes, it is." Eon's body then gets dragged by Silenus towards the altar, with his blood and tears splattering the ground. As the boy's consciousness slips away, he is left pondering why it ended up like this. Even Tor, who had promised that he would protect him, is nowhere in sight living up to his word. While Eon's near-lifeless body lies on the altar, Arian instructs Alexandria to slit his throat. The annoyed girl approaches the boy, complaining about always being made to do the dirty work but sharpening her blade while she does so. Coming up onto the wheezing kid, the adventurer brings up her sword into the air and is about to finish the job. Suddenly, Eon unexpectedly moves, throwing away the sword from Alexandria's grip. The blade flies off and strikes Silenus in his face, cutting up his eye. Enraged, the girl grabs the boy by the throat and tells him to just give up and die already. Nope, getting a little too crazy for me. However, Eon doesn't seem to be scared anymore. Gazing at the adventurer with a fearsome stare, he proclaims that the douchebags will get what they deserve one day. The boy tells Alexandria that he sees now that the four horsemen are not true heroes, remarking that the ones who should be on the altar are all of them. Eon's words freezes up the girl for a second when Silenus comes ferociously charging there, asking the little monkey if he realizes what he has done. Letting out his fury, the horseman penetrates the boy's chest with his massive fists. However, he isn't satisfied with just one strike. Continuing his barrage for as long as he sees fit, Silenus rips apart the kid's body, all the while Arian and Alexandria look on with indifference, and Tor tries to avert his eyes from the gruesome death. Oh, now he feels remorse. Fading away and closing his eyes, Eon doesn't regret the things that he said as they chose to kill him with hardly a thought. In his dying moments, he wonders if power truly defines the worth of a life, if he truly deserved to die just because he was weaker than the others. If that is how things are in this world, Eon wishes that he will be stronger in his next life. At this point, the boy no longer feels any pain and just drifts deeper and deeper into a cold abyss. Opening his eyes, Eon finds himself in the whirling pool of galaxies and thinks that it's the afterlife. He arrives in front of a giant golden gate, with a throne in front. Suddenly, the mysterious entity wearing a hat greets the boy by his name, congratulating him on winning the game. With an ominous energy bursting forth everywhere, the white-haired figure lets out a massive grin. He then announces, "Welcome to the Mad Gate." They said the thing again. Let's go. Eon stands in the cold abyss known as the Mad Gate, having never heard of such a place. The mysterious entity reveals that it is a place that exists at the border of logic and madness, being something that someone like the boy wouldn't be able to find. Hearing these words, it clicks for the kid. This voice is none other than the infernal lord that spoke in their heads in the S+ ranked dungeon. Gritting his teeth, Eon says that it's because of him that he drifts off. Holding 2 Joker cards in his hand and still grinning, the entity tells him to go on and finish his sentence. The man then reminds Eon that he wasn't the one who sent him here. Rather, his friends were the ones who performed the deed. Ouch, but I'm not holding back. Hearing these words, the boy is hit with the realization that the infernal lord is correct. The 4 horsemen had sacrificed him at the altar without any remorse. And for what? Power and wealth. Things that they already had in copious amounts. Eon laments that he looked up to such people in his past life and is feeling down. Suddenly, the hat-wearing madman tells him not to beat himself up so much and reminds the boy what he said earlier. Spinning his fingers around like a maniac, the infernal lord reiterates that Eon won the game, making the latter look on in pure confusion. Just explain already, dude. Decide which of you deserves to die and sacrifice them on the altar. This is what the madman had instructed the group earlier. However, all of his favorite games have a common rule. Only one person wins, the one that would be least expected to win them. Plot twist. Pushing his hand deep into his magical hat that doesn't tear, the infernal lord pulls out a bunch of glowing keys. He announces that as the winner, he grants Eon the power of the Mad Gate. His power. Listening to the man continuing to rant on, the boy asks him just who he is. The entity responds with a massive grin and glowing purple eyes, revealing that he is the infernal lord of insanity, the Mad King. Eon then questions if any gift given to him wouldn't just be wasted, given that he was killed. Man does have a point. Wrong, declares the man, proclaiming that the boy can be reborn into a new life, one where he is strong. As the four keys jam together and glow even brighter, the Infernal Lord sits back on the throne and reveals that this gift doesn't come without a price. Like all good things, it requires a sacrifice. In this case, it is the fact that the Mad King's powers rely on insanity. So, using them too much might end up making Eon slip away from sanity into madness. Though, the Infernal Lord is of the view that the sacrifice is far better than just staying dead, and asks the boy what he thinks. Will he accept the gift and become strong, or will he embrace the lonely void of death? These options are presented to the kid that was betrayed by his supposed friends not too long ago. Surely this is an easy enough choice and stupid morals don't get in the way, right? Staring at the keys to the Mad King's powers lying before him, Jan thinks back on how he has been expendable his entire life. Everyone called him useless and weak, and maybe they were right. Despite this, the boy never stopped trying and thought that by working for someone as strong as Tor, he could learn something. However, nothing changed in the end, and he just fell victim to the greedy douchebags. Originally supposed to finally return home after the dungeon, Jan was deprived of his yearning by the irreplaceable heroes in the Four Horsemen. With a ferocious look on his face, the boy proclaims that he will show them and asks the Mad King to give him his powers. Finally, Dobu choice, no longer caring what it takes, Eon just wants to return so he can show everyone that he can change. And so, the kid grasps the shining keys, beginning to glow the same purple glow in his eyes as the Infernal Lord. Right as the keys enter Eam's grip, the very fabric of the dimension he stands in starts to shatter. The Mad King lets out the widest grin, with his entire being and especially eyes glimmering with a purple aura. He declares the accord between them to be perfect, assuring the boy that he has made the right choice. Then, the gigantic golden gate behind the Infernal Lord starts to open, shining a bright light onto Eon. Getting up from his throne and walking towards the boy, the Mad King tells him that as one game ends, another begins. Crossing Eon, the man bursts into a crazed laughter. Throwing the two Joker cards he was playing with into the air, he expresses his excitement to see how Eon does in his new life. The light from the Golden Gate continues to erupt and envelops the boy, all the while the Mad King's laughter echoes into the shattering dimension. At this moment, Eon can't help but wonder that if the second chance is real, could he really do it? With the two Joker cards dissipating into the blinding light, the boy questions, "Can I prove all of them wrong? Have some confidence, my guy." Over with the Four Horsemen. They stand over the boy's bloodied body placed atop the sacrificial altar, sensing the Infernal Lord's aura to have disappeared completely, with nothing happening. The group is left wondering if they got played by the voice and think that there was never any reward, while Tor questions if they killed Eon for nothing. The rest want to go around checking to see if anything has changed. They really cooled and care less lol. Arian insists that Silenus get medical attention but gets told to screw off by the beastly man, covering his bloody eye with a piece of cloth. Near the altar, Alexandria starts walking away, complaining about the mess of the boy's body. Tor also towers over the kid's corpse there and is told by his fellow horsemen to come along, given that there is nothing that can be done now. As the four adventurers march off, Hyun's body starts to ooze out a purple aura and his blood begins to stir around. The boy then sees an alert, congratulating him. A menu appears in front of Eon, informing him that he has been gifted the system of the Mad Gate by the Mad King. This is followed by a prompt that tells the kid that he will be reborn at level 1. As the boy wonders what it even means, he suddenly remembers. The crazy Infernal Lord had really done what he said he would and brought him back. Remarking what a miracle it is, Eon gets up and feels relieved that the Mad King wasn't lying. Lying on a mountain of corpses, the boy wonders where he is, making the mistake of looking around. Utterly startled, Jan is left confused on why there are so many dead bodies around him. Just then, the menu from earlier gives him a new tutorial quest. It says to exterminate the 20 raiders that pillaged Pulro's village and shows him his current progress of 0/20th. Even more baffled than before, he doesn't understand what raiders the system means. Suddenly, Jan turns back and witnesses a sight of a village enveloped in giant flames. "It can't be," he mutters, while the Mad King looks on, wondering excitedly how the boy is going to play this. Man's more excited than the revived Yude. Eon tries to understand what's going on when a blobby creature comes out of his menu window, scaring the ever-living crap out of the boy. Having 4 octopus-like limbs and 2 horns on its head, the blob starts laughing for getting such a reaction out of the scaredy cat. Though, Eon isn't amused at all. Putting his palm outward, the boy demands the creature tell him what it is and where it came from. understanding that the kid is on edge after being reborn. The blob proudly announces that he is Kaorio's, the Dream Eater. The proud demeanor soon changes into a cutesy pet-like one, as the creature allows Eon to call him K, revealing that the Mad King sent him to guide the boy through the system of the Mad Gate. The creature asks the boy if he wants to become stronger. Looking back on how he was never enough, Eon replies, "I do." With these words from the boy, K's eyes begin to glow a bright blue, proclaiming that he will teach him how to rise to the top. The creature then explains to Eon that this system is the gift the Mad King bestowed upon him after he died and was reborn. Revealing it to be a game, K elaborates that the Infernal Lord wouldn't give all of his power to the boy at once. It is something that the revived kid needs to earn, which is what the system of the Mad Gate will let him do, as the Mad King channels his power through it to him. As of right now, Eon is at level 1 and can gain experience points or XP by defeating enemies, completing quests, etc. in turn. This will increase his level and make him stronger. Hearing this, the boy gets confused and asks exactly what K means when he says stronger, just as the creature remarks that its abilities and natural attributes. 3 blood-covered figures come marching on out of the flaming village, dragging a corpse along with them. Dudes playing life on hardcore mode. Approaching Eon, they wonder if he is a survivor and question why his clothes look different than all the villagers. Suddenly, one of them says that it doesn't matter either way as the kid needs to die. Seeing this, Kay tells the boy that this is the perfect chance to test out his abilities. However, Eon does what he would have done in his past life and starts blitzing off. The blob asks where he is going off to, while the 3 ominous men decide to give the runner a good chase. Going inside the village with corpses lying all around, the revived boy hides in one of the broken buildings. Suddenly, Kay appears before him and asks why he ran. Though he is told by the scared boy to shut up as the attackers from earlier will hear him. Bro is still afraid. What a scaredy cat. Coming inside the building, the blob tells Eon not to worry as only those touched by madness can see or hear him, reminding the kid that he didn't answer the question of why he ran. While Eon tries to formulate his words, Kay makes him remember that he proclaimed that he wanted to change in this new life. Suddenly, half of the creature's body turns into the Mad King, roaring out at the kid and demanding to know if that was a lie. Gritting his teeth, Eon remarks that it wasn't and is about to say something. However, Kay interrupts him and tells the boy to get up. The blob tells him that it doesn't matter if it's because he's afraid of dying again, or if it is something else. Either way, the Mad King didn't revive the boy so he could spend his life running again. Kay then proclaims, "I will show you how to kill them." "Ooh, show me too." Meanwhile, the 3 men roam around the village and think that maybe one of their other fellas found the kid. Suddenly, one of them senses a presence in a nearby building. As none of the others saw anything, he tells them to stay there while he goes to take a quick look. Readying his blade, the man slams the door open and finds the cloaked boy with his back turned. He lets out a ferocious bloodlust, announcing that the kid is coming with him. Hearing these words, Eon lets out a massive grin, reminiscent of the Mad King himself. With his back still turned to the man standing at the door, Eon throws a doll towards him. As the attacker stares at the toy wearing a pink maid-like dress with its blonde hair, he remembers how this wasn't just any other doll. Back when he was living a crime-free, peaceful life in his village, the man's daughter used to play with the exact same doll. However, this all came tumbling down when their village went up in flames after a horde of monsters attacked. Albeit trying his best to fend off the creatures, the man wasn't able to save what he loved the most, forced to watch his daughter and her favorite doll getting burnt to a crisp. Now, standing behind Eon, the man grasps the little toy in his hands. Furious, he demands to know where the boy got it. Suddenly, the doll begins to talk, referring to the man as Daddy. It asks the attacker why he is doing this, why he is killing all these people. Hearing this, he gets frozen in place. Dropping the doll and his blade, the blood-covered man looks on at the cloaked person standing before him. Just then, Eon turns around, revealing the doll's face behind the hood. With a monstrous grin, the ominous figure asks the man why he has become like this. Seeing this, tears start welling up in the attacker's eyes and he mutters, "Elaine." Right then, the cloaked doll shouts out and inquires just how much blood is on his hands. With these words, the former lets out a horde of bodies on the ground that start scratching and crawling their way on towards the man. Oof, dude's going way too brutal. Love it. Looking at the deformed corpses dragging on the floor, the attacker realizes that these are all the villagers that he had killed without a single ounce of remorse. As the fruits of his bad deeds stare at him, the man apologizes for being a terrible father. Backing up from the corpses, he begins to cry, remarking that he doesn't know how things ended up like this. Thinking back on that fateful day, the attacker tells Elaine that nothing's been the same ever since he lost her. He was never able to forget her voice on that night, and the blood-curdling screams still haunt him. While the monsters lit his house and dragged him off, Elaine kept shouting out for her dad to help her from burning, but never got the help she needed. Since that day, the man doesn't know what happened to him, but he has completely lost himself. With a creepy smile on his face, the attacker now faces the corpses, asking the cloaked Elaine if she can forgive him for what he has become. Suddenly, a sword pierces his neck from the left and goes out through the right. Ouch, that sounds a little painful. No. Left in a mess of blood and tears, the man falls dead to the floor. Pulling out his blade, Jan tells the attacker that unfortunately, there is no forgiveness for a murderer like him. Right then, the system of the Mad King pops up and reveals an active skill named Hallucinate. Being level 1, this ability uses 1 madness and allows the user to make its victims see their deepest fears for 30 seconds. It can be implemented up to 5 enemies at a time and requires eye contact to be activated. Using this, Eon has completed one of his 20 kills for the quest. Back when the man barged in through the door, Kay told Eon to use this skill as they had made eye contact. Following this instruction and making his eyes glow a purple aura, the latter looks at the man to cast Hallucinate. As the attacker drops his weapons and falls to the ground, the blob explains that he is currently caught in an illusion that the boy fabricated. Unless he breaks free, this is Eon's chance to execute the scum. However, upon bringing his blade to the man's neck, the kid hesitates. As Kay asks him why he is getting cold feet now, Jan remarks that he doesn't feel right about this. Despite having slain beasts before, this was new territory for him as it was never like this. Not only was his target a human, but he was also defenseless. So, says the angry blob, damn, sounding like the horsemen out here. He reminds the boy what these men did to those innocent villagers. Kay asks Eon if he really thinks that people like them deserve mercy, and if they showed even an ounce of that compassion towards their victims. The blob then questions the boy, will you let your pure heart stand in the way of your rise to power? Hearing these words, Eon grits his teeth and puts the man out of his misery. Standing outside the building, the other 2 men see their fellow named Igor fall dead to the ground and get alerted. As they stand there, Eon comes marching out, leaving the men confused that a kid like him was able to kill Igor. The boy bursts forth with an ominous energy, realizing that Kay is right and that there's no time to empathize with these monsters. With the Mad King's aura enveloping him, Jan proclaims, if I want to become stronger, I need to change now. With these words, the boy's eyes begin to glow purple once again, and the 2 men get caught in his hallucination, seeing ugly and disfigured monsters, along with rattling snakes rapping at their feet. The raiders are frozen in place. Man brought nightmares to a close combat fight. This time, Jan doesn't hesitate one bit. In a quick flash, he pulls out both his blades and slashes the men's necks. Snapping back to reality, the raiders witness blood splurging from themselves everywhere and fall to the ground. Complimenting the boy for a job well done in killing the 2 so quickly, Kay tells him that 3 are down, leaving only 17 more to go. Covered in blood and holding a stern expression on his face, Eon towers over the corpses of his victims. He asks the blob what the system means when it says that using the Hallucinate ability costs 1 madness. Kay explains that while most magic users depend on mana or some other energy source to fuel their abilities, things are a little different for him. Since Eon draws power from the Mad Gate and has abilities related to it, using them costs madness and works in reverse compared to the magicians. As the boy is quite a sane person, his madness bar starts at 0. So, instead of depleting, the bar goes higher the more abilities he uses. Consequently, the more the kid will slip from his sane self into insanity. Hearing this, Jan realizes that the more he uses the power given to him, the crazier he will get, remembering the Mad King's words and how he already warned him about it. The boy then asks Kay what happens if or when the madness bar reaches 100. With a mischievous smile on his face, the blob just tells him that it is something that he will have to discover on his own. Just answer, dude. Not saying a word in response, Jan just turns around and starts walking. Kay rushes behind, asking where they are going. Where do you think? Says the boy, remarking that there are still 17 monsters left in this village. He announces that it is time for them to go hunting. The raiders gather around, getting asked by their boss if it is all of the survivors. They assure him that it should be, as the entire village was swept by them. With all the remnants lined up, the boss commends his underlings for a perfect job and tells them to keep the ladies that will fetch a decent price. With a monstrous grin, he then makes a thumbs down gesture and announces to kill everyone there's not a woman. Just then, A dragging noise echoes across the field. The underling briefing the boss directs the latter's attention to the source of the noise, which is the cloak Ian, tubbing the bodies of the two men he killed earlier, leaving a trail of their blood on the ground. Dropping the corpses in front of the boss, the boy tells him how he felt bad about killing his friends at first. However, after witnessing what the douchebags are doing right now, he thinks that what he is doing is maybe the right thing after all. They went and messed up now. Seeing the kid's confidence, the boss inquires what an adventurer is doing this far out in the country and wonders if he thinks himself to be a hero. With an annoyed look on his face, the raider tells Eon that he must have a death wish to show himself out in the open like this. While the boss continues to rant on, the boy just continues to count the number of foes. 15, 16, 17. He realizes that all the raiders he needs to kill to complete the quest have gathered in one place. Telling Kay that it seems like an easy hunt, Eon puts his hand on his sword. Originally, he had thought that facing all these enemies alone would make him scared. But now, for some reason, the boy feels nothing. In this emotionless state, Eon unsheaths his blades and blazes his eyes with a purple aura, casting Hallucinate. By doing so, he makes eye contact with the underling raiders standing behind the boss and takes them out of the fight. Actual cheat codes, dude, what the heck? Left without anyone to jump in before him, the latter takes out his two blades as well and prepares to fight the adventurer. Ian rushes at the raider, and the four swords shared between the two collide, holding the blades at a standstill. He asks the boss if he is proud of what they are doing by picking on the defenseless. Breaking up the impasse, the raider leaps back, remarking that he does what he must as it is an opportunity for him. Hearing this, the boy thinks that the boss sounds just like Tor. Bursting forth with an unprecedented fury, Ian proclaims that people's lives aren't just stepping stones. Suddenly, he changes his target from the boss and leaps towards the frozen underlings while the raider questions why the boy is stopping. Of course, Ian is just cleaning up the battlefield before his hallucination skill expires. Masterfully swinging and swerving his two blades, the adventurer cuts up the unmoving raiders into little pieces. No mercy. Damn. Witnessing this bloody sight, the boss gets startled. Wondering who the hell the kid is, he doesn't understand why they aren't able to stop him. In a panic, the boss hurries his underlings to shoot Ian. Following the command, the raiders bring out a gigantic cannon, loaded up on the shoulders of a massive man. As Ian gets confused at what he is seeing, the cannon is lit up and fired. Speeding at an immense pace, the projectile almost instantly appears right in front of the boy. The seeming collision causes a massive impact, prompting the smug raiders to celebrate at a job well done. Just then, phew, Kay, I can't believe that actually worked, resounds on the battlefield. As the huge cloud of smoke dissipates, it reveals an unharmed Eon, standing right there, holding the cannon's projectile in his aura-enveloped hand and telling the raiders that they are really good practice. The aura that surrounds the boy's hand right now is the level 1 skill named Infuse, using 3 Madness. It allows the user to infuse a body part or object with corrupt energy, temporarily enhancing the infused part's physical damage and strength. At this point, Eon has completed 9 out of 20 kills for the quest. Grasping the projectile tightly with his claw-like aura, Eon brings it back towards himself and takes a stance. He then tells the raiders to catch, throwing the projectile at them faster than the cannon did. The boss barely manages to avoid it by jumping out of the way, but his underlings are just left frozen in place. Zipping past the raiders at an immense speed, the projectile takes out some of them with a direct impact and kills a few others with a giant explosion. Startled at the feat, the boss wonders what is up with the kid's claw-like arm. This kid, he is thinking when the onslaught continues. Eon charges at the remaining raiders, ripping apart one of the faces with his ferocious aura-infused limb. With the quest progress being 16/20ths, the boy leaps at another man, slashing up his chest. And now there were 3, as the boss finishes his thought. Is he a monster? Oh, how the turntables, people used to call him useless and stuff. Getting cornered, the raiders decide to make a last-ditch effort and use the hostages as meat shields. Running behind the old man and a short-haired girl, the 2 underlings smugly put their knives to the former two's throats. Eon refuses to just stand by and let this happen. Shouting out, "No, you don't," at the duo. Once again, the boy's eyes begin glowing a bright purple, making the raiders fall in his hallucination. As the 2 men's eyes begin to glow purple themselves, they get frozen in place. The duo then clutches their heads like lunatics, dropping their weapons. This is followed by shrieking screams and wild movements, as if they were in immense agony. Ignoring their cries, Eon just tells the raiders that they truly are scum for trying to use the innocent as shields for their crimes. He gathers even more energy in his claw-like arm and brutalizes the ever-living crap out of the two. The now-freed hostages look on, as the kid before them sends their attackers flying off into the distance, creating a massive explosion and a huge smoke cloud where they land. Witnessing the scary adventure firsthand, the boss of the raiders begins cowering in fear and falls to the ground. Meanwhile, Eon has a monstrous expression on his face and gets even more riled up by Kay telling him, "One more." Yes, definitely rile him up more. That's a good idea. Suddenly, the boy turns towards the last target. Dragging himself backwards and away from the kid, the boss begs for mercy from him. Whimpering, the former tells the latter that he doesn't need to do this. However, hearing this only makes Eon even more furious. Stomping his feet into the ground, the boy looks down on the fallen boss, remarking that he didn't need to hurt the people of the village either. Keep the women, they will fetch a decent price, kill the rest. Eon asks the raider's boss if those words ring a bell. While the man averts his gaze, the furious kid tells him that he will just continue this cycle if he is let go. Suddenly, Eon feels an ominous sensation come over himself. His madness meter has reached 13/100ths, creating changes in his demeanor. The boy bursts into a wide grin like the Mad King, while Kay tells him to man up as he can surely handle more than that. In the same vein, the little blob warns Eon to watch out and be careful, as the raider's boss plans to take full advantage of this opportunity. Bringing out a small blade from his waist, the man charges right at the boy. From where? However, the desperate attempt at exploiting a moment of hesitance proves to be completely and utterly futile. Simply putting up his infused arm in the attack's trajectory, Eon shatters the boss's blade into tiny fragments. With his moment of defeat finally at hand, the raiders' leader doesn't throw a tantrum or a fit. Instead, he simply accepts his fate and remarks that perhaps is what they deserve for all they have done, an executioner. In his current state, Eon fits the role quite perfectly, glowing with an ominous aura, covered in blood, grinning and laughing like a maniac. He checks all the boxes. And so, the boy swings his claw at the raider's boss, separating even the bones from his flesh. With this, all 20 of the pillagers required for the quest's completion get dealt with, earning 100 XP from it. Eon is congratulated by the system of the Mad Gate as it levels him up to 2. Somewhere in the world outside, a brown-haired lady wearing a knight armor, awfully reminiscent of Tor, apologizes to a grandma and a little blue-haired girl that looks like Eon. While the granny tries to console the crying child, the latter continues to well up with tears. The former explains that the strongest adventurers were with him, so it must have been quite a fight. However, the girl just keeps on crying that Eon is dead. Looking at the startled knight lady, she asks how that happened. The little one whimpers, "Didn't you promise you'd protect him? Heya." Afterwards, the brown-haired woman from earlier marches through a grassy field and is still shook up from what she saw. The previous day, the 4 horsemen arrived back at the village, having cleared the Mad Gate. They received a hero's welcome, with the people praising them for doing what was expected of the world's strongest and saving them. Arian, Silenus, and Alexandria march on proudly, while Tor's sad expression seems to be one full of guilt for killing the boy for the riches. "Oh, come on now, where was this when you killed him, dude?" Arriving at the castle, the group of adventurers bows down and briefs the Emperor about communicating with the infernal Lord of Insanity, the Mad King. Wearing a white mask on his face, Emperor Hasten of Herodia remarks that no human before them has come in contact with such a being. He continues on about how dungeons have appeared around Herodia at triple the rates ever since the Mad Gate showed up. With his spiky blue head of hair and bloodshot eyes poking through the mask, the man says something has changed. Hasten then tells the 4 horsemen that although he is aware that they just got back, that he will need them to help the other adventurers to clear the dungeons, since this is due to the Empire being short-staffed and will be troublesome for the strongest adventurers. They will be given double the rewards for their services. While Arian assures the Emperor that they will do their best, Tor continues to look down at the floor in a state of empty-mindedness. Observing this behavior from Tor, Hazen calls out his name. As the man gets startled, the Emperor asks him what he feels about their victory over the Mad Gate. Hearing this, Tor thinks about what to say and remarks that it was unsatisfying. With a cool and calm demeanor, Hasten just lets out, "I see," dismissing the 4 horsemen. Marching on out of the castle, the group of adventurers is met with a knightly woman. Stomping her feet, she tells Tor that she doesn't see Eon with him and angrily asks where he is. These words hit like daggers for the man. who seems to be full of guilt for sacrificing his personal assistant and friend inside the Mad Gate. "He's gone," remarks Tor, walking past Hia and apologizing to her for not being able to protect Ian. "Someone give this guy an Oscar." These words leave the woman frozen in place, not even having the courage to ask what happened. Back in the grassy field, Haya thinks about how Ian is a part of her past and a side of her that she has long since cast away. Putting her palms against a hill, she remembers always thinking that the kid would live a long life. Looking back on all this makes the knightly lady absolutely furious. Clenching her teeth, she shouts out in frustration and throws an earth-shattering punch at the hill. As the smoke from the impact settles, Haya feels the weight of Ian's life bearing down on her despite not being there when he died. When the two were younger, the boy used to give the lay flowers and took an oath that he will always be here. However, as they grew, Haya became stronger. This time, it was her to swear that she would protect Ian. Though things became complicated as they grew even older, and the boy got left even further behind. Holding his hand out behind the lady as she marched off, he so desperately wanted to reiterate his childhood oath but was unable to even fake being tough. Now, once again, it was Haya swearing to do something for Ian, to avenge him. And so, she was off stomping away from the massive trail of destruction left behind by her, worthy of her title as the Rank 1 World Adventurer. Having been saved by Ian, the surviving villagers shower him with their gratitude. The boy gets flustered and tries to play it off, telling them that it was no problem at all. He is about to say something more, but is caught off guard as a girl begins to cry, huffing and puffing. She tries to say that all of them would be dead if it weren't for the boy. As Ian hears this, he smiles a bit. Looking down, the boy remarks that he knows what it feels like to be helpless in a situation of hopelessness. With a gentle smile, Ian expresses how glad he is that he got there just in time. Filling all the villagers with hope using his uplifting words, the boy tells them that they should give the fallen a proper burial. The next morning, a wild gust of wind blows over the buried villagers' graveyard. Wishing Ian good luck on his journey, the survivors promise him that the village will be rebuilt the next time he visits and that the ultimate feast will be prepared for him. Smiling giddily, the boy waves them goodbye, remarking that he looks forward to it. So freaking wholesome. At this moment, when the villagers wave back at him, only one thought is running through Ian's mind. Is this what it's supposed to feel like, being a hero? Heading off and remembering the scene of his death, the boy tells Kay that he wants to be stronger. He wants to do it so he can become a top adventurer and help even more people. And the image of the 4 horsemen pops up in his brain. While the boy goes deep in thought, the smut Kay hovers over him, remarking that he gets it and that there is no need to be such a crybaby. The blob then proclaims that this is only the beginning, telling Ian that we will wake him the strongest. So, over the next few weeks, the boy focused on leveling up, from slaying monstrous creatures to returning tabby cats to their owners to complete quests. He did everything that would grant him XP. Leveling up to 3, he acquired quite a few attribute points and new skills. There are 5 attributes: intellect, strength, agility, stamina, and spirit. Whilst having 5 points in the first 4, Ian has 10 points allotted to the 5th, putting even the 11th in it. He wants to put more points into spirit because Kay told him that it would increase his mental fortitude, which would help combat his descent into madness as his madness meter goes higher. The boy needs it as well because despite trying to use the Mad King's powers sparingly, he realizes that his own strength is far from enough. Sounds like a skill issue to me. Even now, Ian is surrounded by the corpses of smaller beasts and monsters that he took care of with his blades. However, when a gigantic horned creature shows up, he is forced to rely on the system of the Mad Gate, using the Infuse skill to bring out the ominous claw. Leaping into the air, Ian uppercuts the massive beast with a thunderous force. As the monster splatters blood everywhere from its mouth, the boy envelops his leg with the Mad King's energy as well. Following up his fists, he lands a rocking kick on the beast. The impact from the blow is so great that the huge monster is sent flying like a pebble, eradicating even the countless trees in the forest while moving through the air. And so, bursting forth with the power bestowed upon him by the Mad King, Ian is able to stand in the arena with opponents he could never even imagine facing before. Standing witness to the destruction caused by himself, the boy lets out a massive grin, getting riled up by the exhilaration of witnessing his own ascension. Having reached 27/100ths madness on the madness meter, Ian thinks that it won't be long until he catches up to Tor, or will it? After all, quests and monsters can grant only so much XP. 1 month passes after defeating the raiders, and Ian stands at a pier. Kay remarks that the best way to become stronger and get better gear is to clear dungeons. Why did they not think of this before? Following this, the boy boards a large ship belonging to the Silver King's Guild, ready to embark towards the new dungeon, the Underwater Kingdom. On board the ship, a voice calls out for Ian. It remarks that he must be their new mercenary adventurer, making the boy look in the direction it is coming from. As the boy does so, he sees a man thunderously jumping atop the deck. This is Falcon, the leader of the Silver King's Guild. Wearing an eye patch and smoking a big cigar, the furious man scolds his guild members, telling the idiots that he told them about not needing outsiders for help. Upon hearing this, a curvaceous glasses-wearing lady named Talia lets the boss know that they had the budget for it. Being the second rank amongst the Silver Kings, she remarks that getting the outsider was necessary for a dungeon of this caliber. A green armor-wearing man named Wen, the third ranked in the guild, responds to her, asking if they really needed 2 mercenaries, out of which one is a kid. Kay pouts at the insolence, while Eon tells the 3 top ranks that he isn't a kid. Letting out a big smoke cloud from the cigar, Falcon replies that they aren't talking about him. Suddenly, they hear some shouting on the ship. A blonde-haired kid is devouring large amounts of food like it is his last day on the planet, while the guild members of the Silver Kings scold him for doing so as the food was meant for their leader. While Eon and the others look on at the commotion, the smug kid just pokes his own nose. He tells the guild folks that if that is really the case, and maybe the boss should fight him for it. This cocky blonde-haired individual is the other mercenary adventurer besides Eon, named Leo, a mysterious entity. As the guild members prepare to make the little brat pay for his cockiness, Falcon remains unamused. Calm and collected, he puts his hands in his pockets and announces to set sail now that everyone is here. Wen appreciates how lively things have gotten already, while the pouty Kay and Eon wonder if this Leo is too young to be an adventurer already. However, upon seeing the little kid fend off the guild members while keeping the drumsticks safe in his hands, Eon remembers that Haya was the same age when she first started adventuring. Reminiscing on the last time they met each other, he feels a bit sad and wonders how she is doing nowadays. Thinking that the girl is probably off saving the world, the boy feels a little bit optimistic. Looking at the bright blue sky, Eon smiles, hoping that one day he can stand before Haya as an equal. Just then, the sun gets covered by a flying body. It, of course, is the cocky Leo who has been sent flying by someone. Avoiding the kid as he comes slamming down on the deck, Eon tells him to watch it. Getting a backbone. You love to see it. Getting up, Leo grits his teeth at the boy and asks him if he wants to fight too. Hearing this, Kay bursts laughing, remarking that he may hate everyone else but likes the little funny one. The Mad King's prodigy looks at him annoyed, wondering why him and the little kid are so annoying. Meanwhile, Talia tells Falcon that all the necessary preparations for departure have been made. Helming the ship, the latter steers around in a quick burst. This makes Leo and Eon lose footing, sending the former face first down on the ground. Coming to a halt, Falcon tells everyone on board to listen up. He proclaims that today, the Silver King's Guild will clear the D-ranked dungeon of the sunken city, Atlantis, remarking that this is their chance to make a name for themselves. The leader riles up his troops. He announces that clearing Atlantis is only the beginning of their ascension, with the end goal being to become the greatest guild in all of Herodia. Lighting up a new cigar, Falcon tells his guild members that if they follow him, they will go down in history as heroes. While the Silver Kings cheer and rally behind their leader, Eon wonders how a guild that is still clearing D-ranked dungeons has such abundant resources. Thinking back to his time with the Four Horsemen, the boy is reminded of Tor in a few ways by the guild master's ambitions. Suddenly, the usually upbeat Kay seems to hold stern for a moment. What is wrong with bro? Seeing this, Eon asks him if something is wrong, getting told that it's nothing. The blob remarks that it was just an odd feeling. He thought that he sensed a familiar aura. As the ship continues to sail in the massive body of water, someone lets out a wild laughter, remarking what a riot it is. This laughing maniac is the infernal lord of insanity himself, the Mad King. Looking on at Eon through a mirror-like object while sitting atop his throne, the entity slams his hand to his face. They are on their way to him. The Mad King grins, proclaiming that it seems like he won't have to wait so long after all. Having been tied upside down to one of the ship's poles due to constant mayhem, Leo causes a ruckus, remarking that the douchebags paid him to help them with the dungeon. The kid demands to be let down and untied or else. He would make them regret it, though. All the shouting in the world doesn't make a single soul stop to help him down. Furious, the mercenary adventurer continues to move around, cursing out the guild members as he knows that they can hear him. Standing by the kid, Jan is holding some food and drink. He tells Leo that what he is doing now won't get him help from anyone, getting screamed at in return. The latter remarks that he didn't ask for advice from a twerp, demanding to be cut down from there. With a gentle smile on his face, the boy just says that it's against the captain's rules to do so, while Kay looks down on the kid, annoyed at who he's calling a twerp. Just then, Jan pops open the cap from the bottle he was holding and tells Leo that he still wants to help him however he can. What a sweet guy. Trying his best to act like he doesn't care for the friendly gesture, the kid just pouts and says, "Fine, whatever." The boy then puts the drink up against Leo's mouth and ends up spilling it everywhere, annoying the kid instead. As Jan apologizes for the splash and blames it on the little one being upside down, Kay looks on in disappointment at the two idiots. Afterwards, the two adventurers hold a conversation. Sitting down beside the tied-up Leo, Jan remarks that he hasn't heard of a name like his ever before in southern Herodia. The kid remarks that it's because he is from the north, revealing that he was a farmer before he became an adventurer. Getting excited hearing this, Jan tells Leo that it was the same case with him, with the difference being that the kid is a lot younger than the boy was when he started adventuring. While on the topic, Jan questions the little one why he started so early in a profession where the lifestyle just reeks of danger. He asks Leo if his family was okay with him choosing this life, triggering terrible memories in the kid's mind. The mercenary adventurer remembers his family dying in a shipwreck, but doesn't reveal this information to the boy, telling him that they were in fact fine with it. Leo remarks that with these dungeons suddenly awakening, he knew that he couldn't just sit still on his farm while all the monsters roamed about and wreaked havoc. Wanting to get out there and make a difference, he became an adventurer, aiming to become the strongest, someone who was even stronger than the legendary Silenus. If only he knew. Hearing this, Jan lets out a chuckle at the fact that such a proud kid is willing to admit that he looks up to someone. The boy then tells Leo that he has actually met Silenus before. Remembering the barrage of fists that ended his past life, Jan remarks that the horseman's raw strength is unmatched. Upon hearing this, the otherwise cocky kid lights up. He can't believe that the boy met his idol, telling him that he must have been in awe standing next to someone like Silenus. Leo thinks that saving the world from monsters and dungeons with pure strength sounds pretty cool, remarking that it's what a hero should be. Though, hearing these words just reminds Jan of how he used to think in his past life, getting flooded with the image of getting torn to pieces in his last moments by the kid's idol. Shaking it off, the boy praises Leo for being pretty ambitious for his age and tells him that he respects that. Amidst all this, Kay strangely seems to be in a world of his own. Seriously, someone check on bro. Suddenly, one of the lookouts announces that they are approaching a maelstrom ahead. Falcon listens to this and remarks that they are finally here, telling the Silver Kings to get to their stations. Everyone rushes off, and so does Eon, leaving the kid tied upside down to the pole. Watching them helplessly, Leo shouts out at the boy to wait and cut him down first. Though, Eon just stands near the sail, getting distracted by the sight ahead. While he can't believe his eyes at the ominous raging maelstrom at the Atlantis dungeon's entrance that is sucking in the ship, Kay seems to be uncharacteristically quiet even at this moment. Just then, Wen approaches Eon and remarks that it's such a magnificent sight. He says that the storm has raged non-stop ever since the awakening of Atlantis, revealing that the only way to get to the dungeon is diving straight into the swirling pool itself. Having a confused look on his face, Eon asks the third rank of the Silver Kings if their ship can even survive that maelstrom. He wonders how they are supposed to get out even if they somehow get to Atlantis. Shrugging himself off, Wen tells the boy not to worry as they have planned for this, wondering if he has such little faith in them. Listening to such a half-assed response, Eon ponders why the man is dodging his questions. He is so deep in thought that even a giant octopus arm appearing from the water, and even Kay's warning about it doesn't snap him out of it. Though, Eon finally comes to when the huge limb wraps around him. Yup, totally a good time to wake up. While the monstrous creature continues to drive the boy off into the water, Wen and Leo look on in awe, caught as off guard as Eon himself. Struggling in the monster's clutch as he gets dragged into the swirling maelstrom, the blue-haired adventurer tries to reach for his blade. He manages to unsheath the sword just in time, cutting up the beast's limb into takoyaki. Shouting out "infuse" after, the boy envelops his arm with his signature purple energy and gives it the claw-like form. This time, he doesn't use it like a weapon, but instead, punches the swirling maelstrom at its core. Using the momentum from the impact, Eon jumps back towards the ship and gets caught by Wen, while the latter makes sure the former is okay. The boy just breathes a sigh of relief that he is still alive, getting praised by Kay for his smart use of infusion. The third-ranked Silver King member looks at Eon's infused arm, wondering if this is magic of some sorts. Suddenly, He gets asked by the boy if that thing was some sort of big octopus, remarking that it is something much worse. The confused Wen reveals that it's a kraken. He wonders what the hell a legendary monster of that caliber is doing around here, guarding a mere D-rank dungeon. Just then, another limb pops out of the water and takes a guild member down into the water. What follows makes everyone on board the ship freeze up for a moment. Several more giant kraken limbs erupt from the ocean, sending rippling shockwaves across the water. While Falcon issues a command to the Silver Kings to attack, Jan stands before the beast, wondering how they are going to kill it. IDK, shouldn't you know, dude? His train of thought gets interrupted, though, by a loud Leo shouting out his name. The kid asks the boy to hurry up and cut him loose, urging Eon to believe him when he says that he can help them. Eon listens and heads to free him, ignoring Wen's instructions to not do it, proclaiming that now is not the time to be fighting amongst themselves. The boy cuts up Leo's ropes with his infused claw. We need all the help we can get, don't you think? Eon tells the man, uttering no words as he knows that the boy is right. Wen stands there silent. Right then, Talia calls out for her fellow guild member, shouting at him to look behind. However, it is too late to react as the kraken's limb has slithered too close to him. Before Wen is able to move at all, Eon has jumped behind him. Using his infused claw, the boy pops the kraken's limb like a balloon. Witnessing this immense power up close, the third-rank guild member is stunned and questions where Talia found such a guy. Another guild member gets grabbed by the kraken during this, prompting Eon to jump for him. Seeing this, Kay tells him that he can't save everyone and should instead focus on killing the monster. This enrages the boy, who doesn't plan on standing by to watch these people die. Suddenly, an eerie sensation comes over him and Eon hears a voice telling him that Kay is right, getting overwhelmed by the ominous feeling. The boy falls down to the ground in agony. Their sacrifice is necessary to save everyone else. The Mad King's voice talks to him. While his madness meter goes up to 31/100ths, let the descent into madness begin. During this time, Wen shoots down the kraken's arm and removes its hold on the guild member. Though, it ends up leaving him right above the water and screaming for help. In a flash, someone grabs onto the man and saves him. Laughing out loud, this figure smugly tells the guild members that he told them to let him go earlier and demands that they better thank him when he blasts the big squid to pieces. It is Leo, who is holding a giant magic scroll in one of his arms and the guild member in the other, riding a massive flaming phoenix. Having been overcome by a maniacal madness not too long ago, Jan feels relieved that Leo is here to pick up the slack. However, even the kid's presence is not enough to manage everything. Another quick strike from the kraken captures a guild member again, overwhelming the battlefield once more. This time, Falcon is the one to save the day. Cutting up the beast's limb with his blazing sword, the guild leader issues an order: slay this kraken. Hearing the command, Jan remembers Kay's words about killing the monster and his own proclamation of wanting to get stronger. The boy realizes that he needs to trust that the Silver Kings can protect each other, deciding to focus on what he came here to do. Marching on with his infused claw, Jan calls out for Wen, telling him not to let anyone else die. The boy announces that he will be the one to end this monster and jumps right in towards the maelstrom. In the middle of his jump, he gets his arm caught by the airborne Leo. Reiterating Eon's words about killing the kraken, the kid tells him to get in line. Flying around, the boy reveals that the only way to slay the kraken is a blow to the crystal on its forehead. Eon asks Leo to take him closer to one of the beast's tentacles. Is bro crazy? As the latter gets confused, the former questions if he trusts him. The kid is about to say that he doesn't since he just met Eon, but stops mid-sentence. He remembers everything that the boy did for him ever since getting on the ship. From sharing his drink to cutting him loose, Leo gets a soft spot for him and follows his instruction. Flying close to his requested tentacle, the kid lets Eon go. Charging headfirst at the monstrous beast, the Mad King's protege realizes that what he is doing is actually really crazy after all. Pulling out his blade, the boy grapples onto the kraken's tentacles as he slides through the beast's limb. Jan tells himself not to think about how dangerous this is, given that he just needs to act in order to save everyone. Of course, the kraken wasn't going to let someone cut up his tentacle for free. Getting angst, the beast swings at the boy. Kay sees this and warns him. So Eon jumps right out of the way and lands onto the limb that the monster swung at him. Dudes out here styling on the beast. Though the kraken doesn't have only 2 tentacles. Swinging once more, the beast almost catches the insect scratching away at him this time. Almost, Eon leaps away, making the monster strike himself. While this is going on, Wen and Falcon are on the ship, talking about how the kraken has stopped attacking the ship. The two have no clue why that is. What they do know is that the beast is only interested in Eon right now for some reason. Getting uneasy due to the boys' shenanigans, the Kraken starts going wild in the body of water. Leo flies around in the sky, frustrated that he can't get close to the beast. Eon uses the beast's tentacles like a skiing range and slides around, getting closer and closer to the crystal that will end the beast. However, all the hope comes tumbling down when the Kraken swings and doesn't miss. Catching the boy with a direct hit, the beast finally sends the pesky ant flying. That must feel good? No. Falcon, Wen, Leo, and Kay all get stunned at the sight, while the Mad King bursts into a maniacal grin. And so, Eon falls into the deadly swirling maelstrom. Where's bro going? The end, for now. Having been betrayed and killed by the very people he looked up to, Eon gains a second chance at life. With the powers of the Infernal Lord of Insanity, the Mad King, at his beck and call. Eon is accompanied by a blob-like partner, Dream Eater Kaorios. He spends his days honing his newfound powers, something he never had in his previous life as a castaway. Now, Eon heads to the dungeon of Atlantis, where he faces off against a legendary Kraken. Falling into the raging maelstrom, Eon slowly fades away. Kid rushes after him, calling out the boy's name to wake him up. Suddenly, Eon spots the monster he was fighting earlier, getting left in utter disbelief. The beast isn't the Kraken at all, but a gigantic creature that seems to have the appearance of a man-eating plant. Eon is struck with the realization of this fact, wondering what the creature could possibly be. Just then, the monster opens its eyes and stares directly into the boys. Witnessing the beast's behavior, Eon notices that it is using the skill, Hallucinate, on him. Whatever this giant monster is, it seems to draw its power from the Mad Gate. Not only that, but the creature can also see Kay. The monster extends its hand towards Eon, as if reaching out to him. Having a concerned look on his face, Eon remarks, "You are," getting his hand grabbed by someone. It is Leo, riding on a gigantic swordfish. Dragged out of the abyss by his friend, Eon can't help but look back at the screeching monster with a familiar feeling. The two adventurers soon board the ship, dripping everywhere. Leo was shaken up by the near-death experience, shouting out that the beast he saw wasn't a Kraken and inquires what it was. Saying nothing, Eon is deep in thought. The boy remembers the aura he felt near the creature, convinced that there is no doubt who it belongs to. In Eon's mind, only the Infernal Lord of Insanity himself, the Mad King, could have such an energy. Meanwhile, Leo questions the Silver King Guild's leader about why the monster suddenly stopped attacking. Hey, monsters need vacations too, having no more a clue than anyone else. Falcon remarks that the beast left the ship as soon as Eon fell into the water. Left with no explanation for the transpired events, Leo just concludes that the mysterious creature must have gotten spooked by him. Though Falcon has his reservations with the whole thing. Wen's apprehension is palpable as he shakes his head in concern. He suggests that their wisest course of action might be to make a hasty retreat while the opportunity still presents itself, having a hint of urgency coloring his voice. Yet, any notion of retreat is swiftly squashed by the resolute guild leader. With unwavering determination, Falcon declares the continuation of their journey. The sound of his words slices the air with a conviction that refuses to waver. However, Falcon's resolve does not sit well with Leo, whose frustration boils over. The kid steps forward with his gaze fixed on the tumultuous maelstrom that looms ahead, which is a potent symbol of the danger that awaits. He raises his voice, addressing the leader with a blend of exasperation and earnestness. Leo's words cut through the charged atmosphere as he points an accusing finger, drawing attention to the leader's lack of first-hand experience with the sheer enormity of the lurking monster. In a poignant moment, the kid confronts the guild leader's seemingly unyielding resolve, challenging it with a dose of reality. To retreat or not to retreat, that is the question. He articulates the immense scale of the threat they face, a threat that could spell doom for their entire guild if the enigmatic and colossal creature were to strike again. Leo's genuine concern and passion seep into his words, his intent clear, to ensure that the leader comprehends the gravity of the situation as he does. Looking back at his spooked fellows, the captain asks Talia for a summary of the damages and the dead, instructing the helmsman to keep them away from the maelstrom for now. Walking off, Falcon declares that they will clear Atlantis tomorrow. Leo protests once more, trying to get through to the leader's thick head that they won't even make it to the dungeon if the monster comes back. Sharing the adventurer's thoughts, one approaches Talia with his own doubts. However, the stern lady is even more stubborn. Doubling down on Falcon's order, she announces that they will move forward. Talia remarks that the people who are too afraid to spend the night in these waters can row back to shore on their own. leaving them no choice but to go ahead with a mindless command. Did someone say to charge forward blindly? I'm in. Over with Eon, he looks back at the monster using hallucinate, pondering if the beast is related to Mad King. Kay reveals that the beast is the presence he recognized before, meaning that they are crossing paths with old acquaintances of the Mad King, not knowing who or what specifically awaits them. One thing has become quite clear: the dungeon they are approaching is not the D-rank Atlantis. The rank 1 world adventurer, Heya, stomps her feet, marching furiously onto the last dungeon Eon went to, the Mad Gate. The ground beneath her trembles with each determined step, her heart heavy with a mixture of determination and worry. She notices a trail of blood, vivid against the dungeon's grim surroundings, dragging on the ground. Without hesitation, Heya chooses to follow the crimson path, her footsteps matching the beat of her racing heart. As she delves deeper into the dungeon's unforgiving depths, the air grows heavy with an unsettling tension, as if the very walls were whispering secrets of despair. And then, at the end of the sinister trail, the girl's gaze fixes upon a flower, an oasis of fragile beauty amidst the darkness, yet tainted with the same blood that marks the way. Heya reaches down and picks up the blood-stained flower, getting her heart crushed by a painful realization. It's the same flower that Eon had given her all those years ago, a token of their childhood friendship and innocence. As the petals brush against her fingers, Heya's mind becomes a whirlwind of memories, reminding her of the time she and Eon shared together. Clutching the flower close to her chest, Heya finds her indomitable exterior cracking, tears welling up in her eyes. Ah, a tragic rom-com complete with heartache and tears. The mighty rank 1 adventurer, renowned for her strength and unwavering resolve, stands vulnerable amidst the shadows, mourning the irreplaceable loss of a life she cherished. As Heya's tears fall to the dungeon floor, a malevolent voice, dripping with madness, slices through the air, shattering the mournful silence. Panic courses through her veins, her head snapping around to face the very bloody path she had followed. The aura of the Mad King, an oppressive and suffocating presence, pervades the space, a testament to the unspeakable power that now stirs within these walls. Heya is unable to believe that such unholy depths have been breached by an infernal lord. All grown up, Yan stands before Heya, questioning why she is returning something to him that he gave her all those years ago. It was to protect her, but she no longer needs protection. Holding out the flower to return it to Eon, Heya remarks that if she is being honest, she doesn't need him anymore either. Ouch, that got to hurt. Hearing these words, the boy's entire sense of self shatters. Erupting with the Mad King's aura, he demands to know why she is tossing him aside like he is nothing. The memories come flooding back to Ian, cast aside by Tor, shunned and disrespected by society, betrayed by the 4 horsemen. Eon is sick of it all. Seeing the image of Tor with a bloody sword in his hand standing beside Heya, Eon unsheaths his sword. Losing his sanity, he vows to make the rank 1 and 2 adventurers understand exactly how he feels. Right then, Eon wakes up. Everything he saw about Heya and Tor was just a random nightmare. Or was it? Lately, Eon was having a lot of these distorted memories and twisted thoughts. As the boy thinks about how this stuff is getting out of hand, Kay comes rushing there, shouting that there's a situation. Pointing at his silhouette outside his cabin room, the blob reveals that Eon is in danger. When is he not in some sort of danger, though? Bro might as well be a tragedy magnet. Getting sharp objects thrown at him, Eon quickly rolls out of bed. He uses the sheets for misdirection, successfully dodging the surprise attack. Rushing at the mysterious foe, Eon closes the distance between them and knocks the weaponry out of the former's hands. Grabbing the attacker by the neck, the boy lifts him up into the air and demands to know why he tried to kill him. Though despite getting threatened to have his windpipe crushed, the foe refuses to talk and tells Eon to screw off. Getting told by Kay that they have Leo already, the boy lets go of the attacker, who is one of the guild members, and announces that there has been a change of plans. Looking his foe right in the eyes, the Mad King's prodigy uses hallucinate. Dude acting like Ghost Rider out here. Forcing the assailant to reveal where they have taken Leo, Eon towers over the helpless guild member. Meanwhile on the ship, tomb-like structures made of wood are being thrown into the water. Leo's eyes flutter open in a cramped space, barely illuminated by feeble rays of sunlight filtering through 3 small holes in the wooden enclosure. Frustration and anger surge within the adventurer as he realizes the extent of his captivity. With a surge of determination, he unleashes his fury on the wooden walls, pounding them relentlessly. If walls could talk, they'd beg for mercy right about now. Demanding to be let out of there, Leo announces that he will kill each and every one of the attackers if they don't listen to him. Towering over the corpses of their former comrades, some guild members discuss if they should let the kid go. One of them makes the case that Leo opposed Falcon, getting told by the other that it doesn't matter as he is still a mercenary on Falcon's dime, making him unworthy of their trust, deciding that it's better to be safe than sorry. They ignore all of Leo's calls for help and throw him overboard. Even monsters aren't this ruthless, man. They must be going through something. Right then, the guild members hear a thud behind them. Looking back, they see Eon dragging their fellow up there. The boy is furious, as they all fought together as comrades just a few hours ago. Remembering what he felt at the end of his own life in the Mad Gate, Eon is in a frenzy that they would betray those who would put their trust in them. Unsheathing his sword, the boy declares the guild members to be scum and casts hallucinate before he kills them. Once again, Eon inquires where they have taken Leo. Meanwhile, the wooden coffin the kid is trapped in keeps sinking further and further into the water. Leo desperately bangs on the door, frustrated that it isn't opening no matter what he does. Realizing his hopeless situation, he refuses to believe that this is it, proclaiming that he isn't dying here. Suddenly, Leo stops sinking any deeper and comes to a halt. Completely confused, he wonders what's going on. Turns out, the gigantic monster supposedly related to the Mad King has him in his clutches. Amidst the chaos, Eon's heart pounds with disbelief as he witnesses the unthinkable. The heartless crew has callously tossed Leo overboard, reacting with swift determination. Eon's dual swords become a blur, slicing through his foes in an instant. Every second is precious as he feels the urgency to reach his friend. With a practiced fluidity, he resheathes his weapons before leaping over the ship's edge and plunging into the cool embrace of the water below. Memories of the bond he shares with Leo fuel Eon's determination. He recalls how Leo had risked his own life to save him earlier, and that debt can't go unpaid. Propelled by the thought of rescuing his friend, Eon swims and swims, soon arriving near the huge beast. Holding his breath, the boy decides to ignore the creature for now and looks around for Leo. However, the massive number of coffins make it impossible to know which one the kid is in. Just then, Kay tells him that he can send his friend further down below. The blob points toward the monster, who is holding Leo's coffin tightly in his hand. Without even the slightest bit of hesitation, Eon rushes to his friend's aid. Kay tries to hold him back, trying to convince him that it isn't something he wants to mess with. Though, Eon couldn't care less if the monster is the strongest being in the world. "Come on, don't do this," he mutters, remembering Leo telling him about wanting to become stronger than Silenus. Eon wishes that such a kid with huge goals and dreams doesn't meet his end here. In Leo, he sees the version of himself that wanted to be like the Four Horsemen. Erupting into a mad rage, Eon calls out for the monster, announcing that he won't let it take away Leo's life. Hands off, monster. Leo is now on the menu. Without any care for his own life, Eon fearlessly propels himself towards the menacing beast. As the boy charges valiantly, the monstrous creature reacts with a vengeance, unleashing its sinister power to cast the dreaded hallucinate spell. Du pulled out the reverse Uno. While Kay watches with growing concern for Eon's safety, the boy remains resolute and unyielding. The creature's employment of an ability rooted in madness does little to scare Eon, for he himself wields a similar power. Undeterred, he charges ahead. However, his unwavering advance is abruptly met with a nightmarish twist. Out of nowhere, a horde of deformed creatures, bearing their grotesque fangs, materializes before him. The sudden apparition bewilders Eon, prompting a cascade of questions about the origins of these aberrant beasts. Before he can fully grasp the situation, the monstrosities ensnare him, entwining him within their nightmarish limbs. Immobility grips Eon, rendering him helpless and vulnerable. In this dire moment, Kay's voice cuts through the chaos and tells the boy to calm down. Amid the hallucinatory chaos, the blob desperately urges his partner to not fall for the tricks. Hearing these words, Eon realizes that the monster's madness overpowered his own. Fueled by newfound clarity, the boy comprehends that his only means of escape lies in regaining control over his own mind. He focuses his thoughts, channeling his inner calm to counteract the overwhelming influence of the hallucinate spell. Slowly but surely, the nightmarish tableau before him starts to waver and dissolve. His willpower intensifies as he endeavors to shatter the bonds of the hallucination that ensnare him. Big deal. Try talking to girls, lil bro. Letting out a deep breath, Eon's grip on reality tightens and he manages to rid himself off the monster's clutches. Free to move again, Eon questions the monster's relation with the Mad Gate. Just then, the beast swings its gigantic hand at him, landing a direct blow on the boy. Getting struck by such a massive impact, Eon goes sinking through to the deep end. Furious at his partner being attacked in this manner, Kay confronts the giant monster. As Ian's world continues to darken and he finds himself sinking deeper and deeper into the mysterious abyss, the kaleidoscope of vibrant and luminescent creatures surrounding him weaves a mesmerizing dance of colors. Despite the enchanting beauty that envelops him, the gravity of his predicament weighs heavily upon his heart. As oxygen grows scarce and his lungs ache for air, a haunting question lingers in Ian's mind. Will this underwater realm become his final resting place? Amid his struggle for survival, a distant but unmistakable voice pierces through the aquatic body. It is the voice of Companion, the dream devourer Kay, breaking through the oppressive, nightmarish silence of the depths. Ian's heart races as he hears Kay's urgent call, a lifeline in the midst of his suffocating despair, and gets guidance from the unwavering trust he has built with his loyal blob-like partner. Kay's words reverberate in Ian's mind, urging him to brave the tumultuous waters and make his way toward the epicenter of the underwater chaos, the raging maelstrom. The blob makes it clear with his message that there is no room whatsoever for hesitation or explanation, only an imperative demand for action. With every fiber of his being driven by an instinct for survival, Ian pushes through the numbing cold and the crushing pressure. All those cold showers finally coming in handy. He propels himself forward with a newfound determination, towards a glimmering hope. In this pivotal moment, Ian channels the latent power he acquired from the infernal lord of insanity, the Mad King himself. The ominous aura of madness ignites around him, an incandescent testament to his unyielding spirit. With a surge of energy coursing through his veins, Ian casts his signature transformative spell, Infuse, upon his legs. Getting granted an otherworldly agility and strength even underwater, Ian swims. Utilizing the madness as his salvation, the boy manifests a lifeline that propels him through the watery abyss with an astonishing speed that defies the dire circumstances. Ian's muscles burn with exertion as he breaches the chaotic threshold of the maelstrom. Greeted by a tumultuous vortex of swirling currents and crashing waves, he surges through the tempest with sheer determination. Finally, contending with the violent forces, Ian emerges from the churning maelstrom, his body convulsing as he gasps for precious air. The taste of freedom is exquisite as he coughs and sputters, expelling water from his strained lungs. With each ragged breath, Ian's senses reel as he reacquaints himself with the sensation of inhaling life-sustaining air. Kay is filled with surprise, astonishment overcoming his small, bulbous self. It's as if the very phenomenon they had sought refuge in, the maelstrom, had revealed a hidden secret, one even he himself hadn't foreseen. Getting surprised that the maelstrom really has air, as if it wasn't his idea to get there in the first place, the dream devourer smiles. Bro's really swinging between "I told you so" and "wait, I was right." Moments later, Ian finally becomes able to talk and inquires what's going on. He is not only confused that the maelstrom has no current, but is also baffled at the fact that Kay somehow knew to come here. But before Ian can press for explanations, a new shock interrupts their conversation. Above their heads, a wooden coffin, Leo's coffin, clatters through the water, shattering the surreal tranquility of their surroundings. Seeing the clunky wooden enclosure, Ian calls out for the kid. Hearing his voice, Leo responds and shouts out for help. Without wasting so much as a breath, Ian lets instinct take over. Once again, the madness surges through his infused limbs and propels him toward the rapidly drifting coffin. Like a comet streaking through the depths, Ian catches up to Leo. Yet, just as his fingers are about to close around the coffin's edge, a blinding flash of brilliant white light erupts and engulfs his vision. The world around him shatters into fragments of luminosity, and the sensation is disorienting, like being caught in the crossroads of dimensions. Gradually, the radiance recedes, and Ian's surroundings morph into something entirely unexpected. As the light fades, Ian's senses are met with an astonishing sight, an expansive city bathed in an ethereal glow, every corner illuminated as if by 1,000 stars. The architecture is mesmerizing, glowing with a glorious luminescence despite being underwater. On board the large ship belonging to the Silver King's Guild, chaos reigned as the mutinous uprising unfolded. The rebels, driven by desperation and disillusionment, had sought to challenge Falcon's authority. However, their audacious plans get thwarted by Wen. Fighting off the rebels, the Guild's formidable rank 3 lets them know that there is no world in which they would have gotten away with their betrayal. With the mutiny now completely extinguished, Wen stands amidst the subdued rebels. He makes it unequivocally clear that their betrayal was doomed from the start. What Wen wasn't going to say out loud is that he feels lucky. An unspoken truth lingers in the recesses of his mind that, had it not been for the timely intervention of Ian, it would have been too late. A simple warning beforehand that the mutineers are running rampant had saved them from a disastrous outcome. As the tension gradually subsides, the edge of Wen's blade emerges from the throat of a captured rebel, a stark reminder of the consequences that await those who challenge the authority of the Silver King's Guild. The captor's eyes widen with a mixture of fear and desperation, his voice quivering as he clings to the fragile thread of his life. Towering before the coward, Wen inquires the whereabouts of the two adventurers. Panicking to save his life, the mutineer reveals that Eon jumped into the water to save Leo 30 minutes ago. While Talia and Wen look on, the rebel proclaims that there is no way the boy is still alive by now. If the Kraken hasn't taken Eon already, then the ocean will have for sure. Hearing these words, Wen gets infuriated. He questions the rebel if he understands how many good people died today because of their betrayal. Unsheathing his blade, the Silver King's rank 3 orders the guild members to execute all the mutinous pigs, giving them what they deserve. Back over with Eon, he finds himself completely bewildered by their unexpected presence inside the D-rank dungeon known as Atlantis. In response, Kay reminds Eon of their earlier conversation, where he explicitly stated that they were not in Atlantis. Hey, cut bro a little slack. People forget things. However, their confusion is quickly interrupted by the dramatic entrance of Leo, who zooms past amidst the chaos and lands in the city. Following Leo's arrival, Eon turns to Kay and inquires about their current whereabouts, seeking an explanation for their displacement from the supposed Atlantis dungeon. Lil Bro needs to start figuring things out instead of always asking questions. In the meantime, Leo's wooden enclosure forcefully smashes through the glass roof of one of the buildings and plunges into the water below. Eon, following suit, is taken aback by the presence of air within the buildings. What adds to his confusion is the fact that even when the boy submerges himself in the water, he is still able to breathe normally, despite experiencing slower movement as if he were in regular water. Making a decision to resolve the situation at a later time, Eon unsheaths his swords and hastily moves towards the coffin, intending to free poor Leo from the confinement of the wooden enclosure. Suddenly, a loud thud resonates through the area, capturing the attention of both Eon and Kay. The sound emanates from a hatch located near the water, its centrifugal lock unexpectedly initiating the process of opening. While the door eerily creaks open, Leo begins to feel increasingly anxious within the confines of the coffin. Slamming on the wooden frame, the distressed child implores Eon to hurry in his efforts to rescue him from this dire predicament. Leo, filled with anxiety, remains silent as he detects the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Beads of sweat trickle down his forehead as he tentatively wonders if the approaching figure is his friend, Eon. However, once again, his query is met with eerie silence. Suddenly, the hatch swings open, and a terrifying creature emerges, possessing 2 razor-sharp claws and emitting a radiant glow from its face. The monster has an appearance that would strike fear into the heart of anyone who bears witness to him. Consumed by fear, Eon finds himself hidden in a desperate attempt to avoid being discovered by this terrifying creature. As he stays behind in the darkness, a new mission presents itself to Eon. A daunting challenge of surviving for a whole 60 seconds against the formidable One Eye. This survival quest promises a mysterious and enticing reward. Yo, what type of enticing? Eon, taken aback and overcome with curiosity, can't help but mutter a startled phrase as his gaze instantly locks onto the monstrous creature before him. The ground quivers under the weight of the beast's thunderous stomps, emitting an eerie energy that sends shivers down Eon's spine. This formidable opponent, known as the One-Eyed Nether Monster and boasting a menacing level 20, is an imposing sight indeed. Clad in a diver's suit adorned with spears protruding from his body, the creature exudes a palpable aura of bloodlust. As Eon stares, his mind plagued with uncertainty, he finds himself questioning the nature and origins of this enigmatic entity known as a Nether Monster. Without missing a beat, Kay explains that these are monsters that draw their power from an infernal lord, making them typically tougher than other creatures adventurers fight. Knowing that this challenge is beyond his capabilities right now, Eon asks Kay how he's going to beat this thing. The blob reminds the boy that there is no need for him to defeat the monster, pointing to his quest. As the requirement is only to survive for 60 seconds, all he needs to do is just that. There is no urgency for Eon to engage in combat, let alone best the creature. Realizing that Kay is right, the adventurer calms down a bit, though the sense of relief soon fades away when Eon remembers about Leo. Meanwhile, the blonde kid keeps banging on the coffin, demanding his friend to quit playing around and say something. Someone please free the poor kid. Hearing the commotion, Eon refuses to leave Leo fend for himself, in a world full of betrayal, where he met selfish people like the Four Horsemen. Eon met a kind and optimistic friend in the kid, Letting such a soul go through the things that he went through in his own life up to this point wasn't something that Eon was going to allow, and so he gets ready for battle. However, in the instant that the boy unsheaths his blades, One Eye disappears. Stunned in place, Eon mutters, "Where did it go?" In the depths of Ian's memories, there lingers a haunting recollection of an encounter that had once sent shivers down his spine. It was a peculiar and spine-chilling experience, one that etched itself deeply into the fabric of his mind. Amidst the dense, foreboding woods, Eon's path had intersected with that of a sinister and aged woman. She was a figure that seemed to have sprung forth from the darkest recesses of a nightmare. Eon huddled in a corner, away from the lady that was a portrait of terror. He sought refuge behind the resolute shield of Heiya, the young girl who possessed a courage that far surpassed her years. While Eon stayed frozen in place and unable to move, Heiya charged forward at the lady, striking with her blade. Fear had ensnared him, winding its way around his senses and constricting his very essence. It was as though a paralyzing drug had been injected into his veins, infiltrating his thoughts and saturating his body. Throughout his life, Eon had grappled with this potent emotion, a malevolent force that had, until this juncture, exerted a suffocating influence over him. During moments of contemplation, Eon had often pondered the method to vanquish this relentless adversary. He had mused over strategies to conquer fear, hoping that perhaps an unwavering display of valor would be the key. Yet, as time marched forward, wisdom gradually revealed itself to him and revealed the bitter truth. Bravery, though formidable, did not serve as a counter to obliterate fear's grip. Instead, Eon had come to realize that the path to emancipation lay in a different direction altogether. His epiphany had illuminated a stark reality. The only effective strategy against fear was not to engage it head-on, but rather to adopt a facade of indifference. We majoring in philosophy with this one. The ones who could be rightfully hailed as truly fearless were not the audacious or the intrepid, but rather a unique breed of people known to the world as the insane. These were individuals who strode through life as if fear were an illusion, an intangible specter that held no sway over their actions or decisions. During this realization, Eon shifts his gaze to the side. The boy's eyes widen in surprise as he spots One Eye, the enigmatic figure who had vanished into thin air moments ago. Before Eon can fully process the shock of the nether monster's sudden reappearance, the nightmarish beast charges towards him with a terrifying velocity. With its malevolent intent palpable in the air, One Eye swings, savagely swiping at the boy with his razor-sharp claws. The creature leaves a trail of searing pain across N's flesh, a grim testament to its unholy power. Reacting on instinct, Eon springs backward, desperately attempting to put some distance between himself and this abominable adversary. However, despite jumping back, Eon is unable to dodge against the monster that is faster than anything he has faced thus far. All attempts that the boy makes in an effort to create a gap between himself and One Eye end in failure. The beast's agility is unmatched, a nightmarish embodiment of speed that challenges even Eon's well-honed reflexes. Though, for some reason, these circumstances only make the boy smirk uncontrollably. With a wide and maniacal grin adorning his features, Eon takes swift and decisive action. In a display of remarkable skill, he employs infuse upon his leg and moves. This enables him to execute a thunderous kick that expertly deflects the blade of the fearsome nether monster. Seizing the opportunity, Eon follows up with a fluid and forceful strike aimed directly at the creature's vulnerable neck, a blow intended to bring about its demise. However, the situation takes an unexpected twist. Despite being in a disadvantaged position, One Eye manages to evade Eon's potentially fatal attack by ducking under it, leaving him in a state of surprise and awe. Again and again, the monster continues to display an astonishing resilience that makes him worthy of being the foe for the survival quest. Much to Eon's dismay, the monster doesn't stop after ducking under the attack and simply keeps going down without stopping. Abruptly, the tables are turned. One Eye, through a swift and unexpected motion, sweeps Eon off even his madness-infused feet. Reacting with a mixture of reflexes and skill honed through experience, the boy leaps away from danger, utilizing his aura of madness surrounding him. As he distances himself from the perilous engagement, Eon makes a neat observation. Despite the hindrance that the presence of water around creates to slow down his attacks, it can be that same nature of the environment that grants him a newfound unpredictability in his maneuvers. Come on, you can say it. It's plot armor. This realization sparks an idea within the adventurer's mind, and he ponders the potential advantages of leveraging this watery element in tandem with the power of infuse. Such a combination could potentially grant him unprecedented maneuverability on the battlefield. Of course, this journey is going to be far from a seamless voyage. Eon has used the Mad Gate's abilities a lot recently, making his madness the highest it's ever been. His reliance on the skills granted to him by the Mad King have taken a toll on his sanity, making the boy wonder how long he can keep it up. Putting points in his spirit to increase it was supposed to make his madness decrease over time, but it isn't happening because Eon keeps using his abilities so frequently. In the midst of this gripping ordeal, the boy finds himself in a precarious situation. Eon's madness meter is teetering at a tense 39 out of 100, despite there still being a whopping 45 seconds left on the survival quest that has pushed him to his limits. Doubt gnaws at the boy as he contemplates whether he possesses the fortitude to endure for the fleeting span that remains. Eon questions if he is capable enough to hold his own for that long without reliance on the Mad King's abilities. In a bid to ease his apprehensions, Eon turns to Kay, wanting to seek solace in the form of guidance. With a voice tinged with uncertainty, he queries Kay and yearns to understand the potential consequences of surpassing the ominous threshold of 40 on his madness meter. In that moment, Eon is reminded of the inherent limitation that the dream-devouring blob possesses. It is a stark inability to unveil the secrets concealed beyond its enigmatic exterior, the boy's question being one of them. Staring intently at his madness meter, Eon feels fear creeping up within him. The idea of trading away pieces of his sanity in return for greater power sends shivers down his spine, creating a chilling unease that gnaws at his thoughts. As the menacing figure known as One Eye rushes toward him with a fearsome power, Eon's heart races, and he draws his blades with a mix of desperation and resolve. Confronted by an adversary who wields superior strength than his own, Eon finds himself enveloped in a cloak of terror. Maybe there was a chance, a way with which he overcomes this fear. Could there exist a path, a method by which he could triumph over this paralyzing fear that now holds him captive? The boy is left wondering. Bro's speedrunning thoughts. Recollections of Heiya's unwavering bravery come flooding back to Eon's mind. The memory of the girl's unflinching courage rages in his head, as she confronted and vanquished the terrifying specter of the elderly woman in the heart of the ominous forest. Could it be? As Eon stands on the precipice of battle, the question lingers, stirring contemplation amidst the turmoil of his emotions. Eon starts to ponder if the key to transcending fear lies not merely in overcoming it, but in eradicating it entirely from one's psyche. In a tense moment, One Eye's formidable presence lunges towards Eon with an undeniable aggression. However, the boy stands his ground without even the slightest hint of trepidation. Unwavering and resolute, this unexpected display of courage triggers a ripple of emotions within Kay, who becomes increasingly agitated and frustrated for some reason. The blob's inner turmoil finds its voice in a muttered exclamation, "Yor." The once fearful adventurer is now transformed by an indomitable resolve, remaining firmly planted. His demeanor, devoid of the fear that once consumed his very essence. In a surprising twist, Eon finds himself unable to believe that he once entertained a thought like, "Can I actually endure for a full 45 seconds?" Such a notion becomes beyond his current comprehension. Amidst this intense turnaround, the infernal lord of insanity watches on with a sinister grin. Sitting on his throne, the Mad King smirk observing his proud Tuje's evolution, prideful at the sight. Hien seizes the moment to assert a new perspective, boldly declaring that his former self had been misguided in his attitude. The metamorphosis is complete, and the boy now stands with a whole new sense of self. As the deadly blades of One Eye sweep through the air in a menacing manner towards him, Eon remains steadfast, refusing to yield even an inch. Instead of retreating, a surge of madness courses through him, and his arms undergo the remarkable infused transformation. Morphing into formidable claws, the adventurer's fists get ready to intercept and halt the impending assault. A maniacal grin stretches across Eon's face, an embodiment of his audacious defiance. He taunts with a declaration that resonates with both challenge and recklessness, realizing that his correct attitude should always have been to ask the question, "In 45 seconds, can I kill you?" Bro spitting bars out here. With those provocative words echoing in the charged atmosphere, Eon springs into action. A whirlwind of motion and aggression. His movements are a symphony of controlled chaos as the boy swings his blades with a ferocity born of newfound insanity. Caught by surprise, the nether monster falls victim to Eon's sudden onslaught, propelled into the air by a titanic uppercut from the adventurer. One Eye becomes airborne, a testament to the attacker's sheer strength and resolve. Following the opening, Eon propels himself skyward as well, with his infused claw gleaming with an ominous aura of madness. The climax of the boy's daring assault sees him descend upon One Eye with unbridled force. driving the nether monster into the ground with a resounding thud. Eon even makes the earth shudder as the impact of his attack reverberates. Having his claw penetrated into his foe, the adventurer remains unyielding. Eon hurls the vanquished beast into the distance with his infused claws, showing his newfound prowess and the overwhelming strength that he has harnessed. As Eon's madness meter steadily climbs, it reaches a significant 45 out of 100. With it, an unsettling grin spreads across his face, resembling that of a deranged individual reveling in a twisted joy. The sensation of being on the brink of invincibility surges through him. Dude's losing it. Feeling as if he can do anything, Eon marvels at his strength. This sensation intoxicates his senses, igniting an overwhelming rush of power. In this state of delirium, he can't help but express a newfound affinity for feeling like this. Talking with words that are laced with both fascination and a touch of arrogance, Eon muses aloud about growing accustomed to this altered state of being. Amidst this surge of euphoria, an abrupt interruption shakes up Eon. The sound of repeated pounding against the wooden confines of a coffin echoes in the air, breaking through his momentary trance. A voice full of urgency and anxiety slices through the atmosphere. It is Leo, who is still trapped within the coffin, directing a flurry of questions at Eon. Leo's inquiries pertain to the tumultuous events occurring all around him. Unable to see outside his wooden enclosure, like a little kid, he demands answers and freedom in the same breath. With a resigned sigh, Eon succumbs to Leo's insistence. His grasp on reality reclaims its place amidst the chaos. The boy's clawed hand shreds through the coffin's wooden confines, granting Leo the freedom he so desperately desires. Coming out of the wooden enclosure, Leo cracks his body and starts complaining. He questions what took Eon so long to get him out and asks if he knows how it feels to be stuck inside a coffin full of water. Suddenly, Leo realizes that they are underwater and wants to know how they are even breathing. Eon sighs once again as if he is a babysitter, asking Leo to just listen. While this is going on, One Eye gets back up. Furious, the nether monster lets out a thunderous roar. Continuing his streak of questions, the blonde kid inquires what the beast is and where they are. Eon takes the time to tell him that the monster is named One Eye, and that they are at the bottom of the ocean. Still not understanding how they are breathing, Leo remarks that Eon better explain this afterwards. Promising to do so, the boy bursts forth with the Mad King's aura. Smirking maniacally yet again, Eon asks Leo if he is ready to kill this thing. Questioning if he even has a choice and getting told that there isn't really one, the blonde kid pulls out his magic scroll. With 25 seconds left in the survival quest, Eon wants Leo to just follow his lead, though the kid thinks it to be a funny statement. Casting a spell, he pulls out a glowing trident from the scroll. Witnessing this, Eon looks back on earlier instances of Leo's power. Albeit knowing that he was a summoner, the boy thought that it was limited to beasts. Grinning even wider at this development, Eon faces One Eye's next attack head-on, not even making an effort to move out of the way. His face gets a bit sliced up by the nether monster's blade. Nonetheless, he follows through with his plan, slamming One Eye with his infused claws. Eon calls out for Leo and remarks that he has a fun idea, telling the blonde kid that his shiny new weapon looks powerful. The boy asks him to test it out. Eon wraps around the nether monster, clutching him with all his limbs, demanding that Leo hits the two of them with everything he has got. She crazy. Getting told to strike his friend down along with the nether monster, Leo grips his trident. He had a sense that Eon was a bit crazy, but this was something else. Nonetheless, the blonde kid leaps forward, deciding to play along with the boy. Thunderously winging his weapon at the two, Leo tells Eon not to forget that it was his dumb idea. The magical trident lands directly on One Eye's face and crushes his diver helmet. In the midst of the chaotic battlefield, a brilliant emerald radiance suddenly erupts. With an overwhelming intensity, it shatters the delicate glass panes adorning the entirety of the surrounding building. Amid this dazzling display of energy, Eon gets dragged across the ground, still clutching the nether monster. Desperately attempting to anchor himself by embedding his infused feet into the ground, the young boy fights a losing battle against the relentless force of Leo's attack pushing at him. Ultimately unable to retain his grasp on the menacing One Eye, Eon propels through the air with a powerful surge of energy, his grip finally broken. Simultaneously, a nether monster also gets caught in the path of the thunderous attack. Being the actual target of the onslaught, One Eye is propelled in a dramatically opposite direction. As the beast hurls across the expanse of water, the combatants are finally separate. The aftermath of this intense struggle leaves Eon gasping for breath, the sheer exertion forcing him to expel blood from his mouth. This was a grim testament to the immense toll his efforts have exacted upon his body. Facing the brute force of this attack head-on, Jan's thoughts whirl. While he had always held a deep respect for Leo's prowess, the events that have transpired exceed even the loftiest of his expectations. The sheer magnitude of Leo's strength, demonstrated through the chaotic clash that has just unfolded, forces Jan to reassess his perceptions and contemplates the true extent of the kid's abilities. In a timely intervention, Kay swiftly joins N's side. The Blob offers his partner a thoughtful observation about the necessity for increased caution from this point on, given the precarious state of his health points. With a current measure of 60 out of 300 health points and 45 out of 100 madness, the odds are challenging. Moreover, a whole 10 seconds remain for the boy to endure. At the moment, Hyun's body is in the process of recovering from the recent onslaught delivered by Leo's attack. Give your poor body a rest, lil bro. With the impact of the attack still lingering, at this critical juncture, a renewed one eye emerges to strike. Despite grievous injuries that have left its helmet shattered and blood seeping, the nether monster continues its onslaught with astonishing strength. Hyun is surprised as he witnesses One Eye's relentless mobility, defying all expectations by still persisting. The boy can't believe that the creature is still able to move, let alone attack in such a manner. Looking on from afar, Leo wants to help his friend but is helpless because of the distance between them. Not being able to reach in time, the kid can only watch and hope that things turn out okay. 10 seconds, low health, the enemy in his face. Hyun has a huge smirk on his face despite all this. Staying in place, he uses his body to block One Eye's blade, getting ripped through by the latter's piercing blade. Kay and Leo, both taken aback by the horrific scene unfolding before them, find themselves struck by a profound sense of dismay. Their gazes lock onto Hyun, whose appearance is nothing short of alarming. The boy's chest is marked by a vivid trail of blood, showcasing a grievous wound. Strangely, Hyun remains strangely unfazed by his own injuries, projecting an aura of unwavering determination or insanity, probably the latter. The nether monster's eye glares out of his helmet, glimmering ominously and emanating a haunting purple light. One Eye, the very embodiment of menace and power himself, is left baffled by this move from the boy. His puzzlement is evident as he grapples with the implications of Eden's actions, as they're trying to make sense of why someone would do such a thing. In defiance, Hyun addresses the monstrous being, asserting that only 10 seconds usually wouldn't have been able to defeat a foe like him. His arms, now infused with madness, rise with deliberate purpose. With the monstrous force, the claw-like limbs pierce the nether monster's face, launching him explosively through to the bottom of the water. 0 seconds left on the clock, Hyun completes the survival quest by utterly decimating his foe. Finally, broken rest. Kay witnesses his partner's feat, awestruck at the sight of the bloody Hyun still smirking. After all this time, the Blob finally realizes why the Mad King chose him. Elsewhere, a creature taps away on his throne, unable to believe that One Eye was defeated by an adventurer. An informant bowing down before him, the monster has an enormous axe lying at his side that seems to teem with an eerie energy. The creature remarks that One Eye's slayer wasn't just any adventurer, as he can recognize that aura anywhere. He concludes that the old man has finally found a new champion. About time, says the creature. Possessing a fishman-like appearance, this is the Mad Prince Arunos. Holding the stand wound in his torso, Hyun sees One Eye's bloody corpse lying on the ground from afar. He can't believe that he managed to win against such a fearsome foe. With 63 hundredths up left still and his madness meter at 45 100ths, Hyun's eyes start getting heavy as if he was fading away, having lost too much blood. Go sleep, old man. Just then, the system congratulates him for defeating One Eye. Leveling up to 7, the boy gains a new ability called Infection. He also obtains a pure gem as a new item, along with acquiring a new system function in inventory. Looking at all this new stuff is enough to make Hyun gently smile, making him happy that the big risk bore a big reward. Afterwards, he gulps down on some health potions and gets to full health, remarking how lucky it is that he always keeps some of them on him. Hyun gets told by Kay that there is no need to worry about that anymore. Having gained the magical inventory system, he doesn't need to carry the items around everywhere and can just store them in there. Hyun browses his new inventory, getting impressed at how awfully convenient it is at letting him store and summon any item he owns on command. He remembers the time when he used to carry around more weight than his own while working as Tor's assistant, feeling a tad disappointed that he didn't have this magical system back then. Scrolling through the inventory, Hyun then summons the pure gem that he got as the quest reward earlier. Keeping it in his hand, the boy reads the description of the grade A item. Being a crystal gem with magic properties, crushing this pure gem instantly removes all madness from its wielder. Eon puts it back, deciding that something like this can be useful down the line. He doesn't think that it's the time to use it right now, feeling like he can push his mind a little further. The boy then takes a look at his new infection skill, which allows the user to transfer madness to and from another host, requiring that the target of the ability is held for 5 consecutive seconds. It uses 10 madness. Kinda busted. No. Albeit lighting up the useful skill, Eon is a bit confused. Wonder why infection would cost madness to use when the whole point of it is to transfer said madness. He questions if he can't just transfer the additional 10 madness as well. Kay tells him to think for a second, remarking that it's a useful ability but that Eon should read the description carefully. Scratching his chin, the boy starts going over all the possible scenarios where the additional 10 madness would matter. One limitation is that if he ever lets himself reach 95 madness, then it becomes impossible to transfer it to another host with infection. Another one is that, in such a case where Eon has to transfer the madness to someone he cares about, like Leo, the 10 additional madness could drive that certain someone crazy. Impressed at the hypothesis, Kay asks his partner what else he can think of. Pondering deeply, Eon realizes that if he can't hold his target for 5 consecutive seconds to transfer the madness, then he just drives himself more insane. Seeing him finally get to this main point, Kay instructs the boy to use infection wisely or he might just accidentally drive himself mad, given that 10 madness would simply keep adding to his total without transferring any away if it fails. Turning around, Eon sees Leo observing One Eye's corpse. He calls out for him, asking the blonde kid if he trusts him. What is bro cooking? Trying to look cool, Leo nonchalantly guesses so and inquires the reason for the question. Eon grins, remarking that there is something he wants the kid to do something for him. Doing as he is told, Leo extends his hand out, gripping it tightly. Eon promises that what's to follow will be quick. With a grin on his face, Eon casts infection and his madness drops to 35 100ths. The boy's mind instantly feels much clearer after bringing his madness back down below 40. Only transferring 10 madness to Leo, Eon thinks that the latter should be okay as he seemed mentally stable. However, he couldn't have been more wrong. Grinning out uncontrollably, Leo bursts forth with an ominous energy, telling Eon that whatever they did was fun. He asks that they do it again, having his madness meter at 41 100ths. Never let dude cook again. On the large ship belonging to the Silver King's Guild, when asks Falcon if he is really sure about doing what he is going to do, he is concerned, as there will be no turning back once they go through with it. Continuing to smoke his cigar while manning the wheel, Falcon questions his partner if he remembers when they first met. With Talia standing beside the two and the other guild members throwing away the corpses of the mutineers into the water, the leader remarks that the day of their meeting was just as beautiful as this one. Wen remembers, and so does Falcon. The leader remembers the image of his rank 3 as a scared child, wielding a bloody dagger. Back then, Falcon extended his hand out to the kid and promised to change his life forever. Reminding Wen of this, he asks him how they can become heroes if they back down at the slightest twinge of fear. Not convinced by this speech, Wen questions Falcon if he is feeling pressure because of him. This seems to hit a nerve of the Silver King's leader, making him visibly upset. Letting out a hostile aura, Falcon tells his subordinate to shut his trap. He assures Wen that he will consider having him thrown overboard too, if the latter speaks another word. Disappointed at the response, Wen is unable to do anything. Welcome to the club, buddy. The ship sails into the raging maelstrom, with Falcon proclaiming that they will conquer Atlantis. Back over with Eon, he gets concerned that Leo's madness is that high and asks him if he is okay. Much to the boy's surprise, the kid is just fine. Leo smiles and cracks his neck, giving a positive response, questioning why he wouldn't be. Feeling guilty, Eon looks away and stutteringly mutters, "No reason." Kay stares at his partner with a snarky look, remarking that his friend is handling the madness quite well. Suddenly, the two get alerted by something. Leo looks back, noticing that One Eye's body has disappeared. Eon wonders what is going on when he feels an ominous presence behind himself. It is the earlier informant of Prince Arunos, who stands there mourning the loss of their dead comrade. Wearing a giant glowing helmet and skin-tight clothing, the creature holds One Eye's corpse in their arms. The mysterious informant begins pouring their heart out to Eon and Leo. Having gone their entire life without experiencing loss, the creature finally realizes what it feels like. Sorrow, confusion, anguish, even relief. It's a maelstrom of emotions for the informant. Make up your mind on one thing, confused by who the creature is and what they are blabbering on about. Eon inquires about their identity. Infuriated by this, the informant lashes out, reminding the boy that he is the one infiltrating their city. Enraged by the audacity of the adventurers to demand their name and title, the creature asks Eon if he has a screw loose. Assuming a feminine posture, the informant drops One-Eye's body. She remarks that the boy acting a little crazy checks out, especially since Prince Arunos has taken an interest in him. None of it matters right now, though, as the creature is here to take Eon with her. Bursting into a blinding glow, the informant casts a spell, forming a magic circle in front of her hand. The creature demands that the boy make her job easy and grovel. While Eon hesitates a bit against unknown magic, Leo tells the wizard to bring it, proclaiming that he isn't afraid of some sparkles. Though, the creature is already aware of this. Not sensing any fear from the summoner, the informant tells Leo that she doesn't need him anyways. The magic spell is cast, causing a massive beam to flow towards Eon at an immense speed through the water. However, upon getting close to the boy, the magic swerves. It approaches the off-guard Leo, seemingly making direct impact. Filled with a surge of panic and concern for his injured friend, Eon's voice rings out urgently. Every syllable he lets out carries the boy's worry and fear as he calls out for Leo amidst the chaos that surrounds them. However, the deafening explosion from the monster's attack is of an enormous magnitude. Leaving a massive impact, the force and brilliance that engulfs the immediate vicinity renders aversion nearly impossible, makes it difficult to see anything amid the blinding light and billowing smoke. Moments later, the point of the magic's impact starts bubbling up. It ripples and churns, a molten cauldron of energy surging from beneath. Out of the churning waters rises Leo, seemingly untouched by the catastrophic explosion that had threatened to consume him. A triumphant smile stretches across his face, while he straddles a magnificent creature, the ethereal swordfish that shimmers with enchantment. Leo's voice slices through the air, resolute and unyielding. He announces that it will take more than that measly assault to kill him. Need this type of confidence for real. Leo and his astral steed cut through the water with effortless grace, with their form melding seamlessly with the fluid environment as they navigate the depths with unparalleled agility. Grabbing Eon's arm with urgency, Leo firmly pulls him along for the ride, and the two fly off into the city submerged in water, carving a path through the aquatic expanse. The blonde kid cruises through the very skies of the unique waterbound metropolis. Determined not to relinquish their escape, the persistent wizard readies another incantation. With magic crackling at her fingertips, she's poised to disrupt the duo's flight. Yet, just as the magical onslaught is about to be unleashed, a colossal ship that has seemingly materialized from the very fabric of chaos hurtles down with destructive force towards the heart of the water city. The impending catastrophe draws the attention of all present, momentarily diverting the wizard's intentions. Weighing her options carefully, the informant decides to fall back and reluctantly disengages from the pursuit, convincing herself that the adventurers won't make it far. Amid the unfolding events, Eon finds himself astride the summoned swordfish, a creature that defies the conventions of reality. Of course, this is the courtesy of the arcane abilities of his extraordinary friend, Leo. With a curiosity that matches his newfound aquatic vantage point, Eon directs an inquiry toward Leo. He wants to know where they are heading, their destination amidst the expanse of the unknown. In a manner that befits his youthful audacity, Leo responds with candor, admitting his own lack of direction. With a casual shrug of his shoulders, he dismisses the query with a simple declaration, "Beats me," revealing that his motivations for conjuring the magnificent swordfish were primarily driven by the need to escape the clutches of a frenzied entity. Dude is asking to be beat up with this response. As the awe-inspiring depths of the ocean envelop them, Eon and Leo confront a stark realization. They are situated at the very bottom of the aquatic abyss. This realization prompts Leo to raise a question that echoes their shared concern. How, indeed, will they get themselves out from this submerged predicament? The query lingers, casting a shadow of uncertainty over their current circumstances. Caught in the throes of contemplation, Eon's mind traces back to earlier, a recollection of the colossal, monstrous creature that they had encountered earlier. That colossal presence, once mistaken for the legendary Kraken, resurfaces in his thoughts for some reason when the daunting task of navigating the depths and finding a way back to the surface is discussed. Just then, a harpoon comes flying towards them and pierces the magical swordfish. Losing their trajectory, the duo's ride goes crashing into one of the buildings. Eon and Leo manage to jump off the swordfish, escaping into the distance. During this, the attacker emerges from the shadows. Possessing green eyes and a merman-like appearance, the monster towers over the screeching swordfish. Summoning sea serpents with sharp fangs, the creature points them towards the injured magical beast. However, his ruthlessness is interrupted by the adventurers. Eon charges ahead with his two blades while Leo stands back with his powerful trident. Though, even after striking the monster directly, the boy isn't able to cut through his skin. Retaliating, the beast sends Ian flying, crashing into Leo. Getting all tangled up, the blonde kid tells the boy to get out of his way. Using the distraction to his advantage, the monster unleashes his sea serpent on Leo. The snake comes chomping at the adventurer, forcing the latter to use his trident to block its biting. Struggling to push back the big snake, Leo gets bailed out by Eon, who uses his twin blades to pierce through it. After sending the serpent's corpse on its way with a knee strike, the boy turns his attention towards the merman. Realization dawns upon Eon, a profound understanding that the weakness did not lie within the blade he wielded, but rather within himself. It was his own inadequacy that prevented him from cleaving through the monster earlier. So basically, it's a skill issue. Get good. Undeterred, he continues his arduous swim, skillfully slashing through the slithering body of the second sea serpent that crosses his path on the way up. Moments later, the adventurer asks Kay for a favor. After a moment's contemplation, the blob agrees to do it, making it clear that this is just a one-time exception. With this pledge secured, Jan steels his resolve and propels himself through the water with his destination fixed on the enigmatic merman lurking ahead. The clash is swift and resolute as Jan's blade once again meets its mark upon the merman's form. A surge of anticipation accompanies the strike, yet the outcome remains unchanged. Having done no damage with his attack, the boy stands before the monster who remains untouched and unscathed. Countering the assault, the merman grabs Ian's neck and begins choking him out. Leo panics over his friend, and the monster lets out a snark smirk. Velvoke is even more smug for some reason and remarks that his favor is fulfilled. The blob announces that the attribute points have been allocated, telling Eon to enjoy his increased strength. Erupting into a wide grin, the boy slashes up the merman, turning his arm into several cuts of fish steak. With an astonishing display of newfound prowess, Jan launches into action against the formidable monster before him. In a dramatic motion, he mercilessly tears through the creature's left arm using his blade, a weapon that had previously proved ineffective against such a formidable adversary. The sight of this seemingly impossible feat leaves observers in a state of stunned disbelief. Undeterred by the monster's prior invulnerability, Jan fluidly transitions his assault to the creature's right arm. With a masterful stroke, he slices through it in a single, precise motion and severs the limb cleanly from its body. The clarity and precision of his strike is nothing short of awe-inspiring. Meanwhile, from a safe distance, Leo bears witness to this extraordinary spectacle. Unable to intervene, he can only watch in utter amazement. In a moment devoid of hesitation, Jan's actions unfold with a blend of audacity and determination. He swiftly takes hold of the armless monstrosity, wrapping his fingers around its neck with an unyielding grip. Showcasing a breathtaking exhibition of raw power and a touch of recklessness that is nothing short of insanity, Jan addresses the merman who appears to be teetering on the edge of consciousness. Eon then issues a stern yet oddly compelling command, urging the being to remain awake. This declaration is delivered with an air of authority, carrying an enigmatic promise that hints at a purpose yet to be fully unveiled. The boy then announces that he still has use for him and casts Infection. With his captive firmly within his grasp, Jan embarks on a test of endurance, a trial that necessitates maintaining his hold for a consecutive span of 5 seconds. In a testament to his fortitude and determination, the adventurer prevails and surpasses the stipulated time. To do so, the boy doesn't even break the tiniest bit of sweat. Slamming the merman onto the floor, Jan descends, feeling completely refreshed. Kay comes down with him, complimenting the boy for being smart enough to take advantage of a dying enemy to transfer his madness away. Just then, the monster mutters, "KK Oros, is that you?" Jan smugly looks at his partner, inquiring how the creature knows him. The blob remarks that he is a well-known devourer, so it should be expected. Meanwhile, Leo catches up to the party and questions what the merman is blabbering about, getting told not to worry about it. Jan goes deep in thought, wondering what changed. The monster wasn't able to see Kay before, but is looking right at him. Remembering the giant monster from the maelstrom, the boy understands that this is the second time a monster is able to see Kay. Don concludes that transferring his own madness to the merman has made him go crazy, meaning that only the insane can see Kay. The monster writhes in agony, continuously calling out for the devourer, confirming that the merman has officially gone mad and will squeal easier. Jan casts Hallucinate. With this, the monster starts seeing Prince Orunos towering over him in place of the boy, asking how they can leave this place. Prostrating himself before his lord, the merman reminds him that they can't escape as they are imprisoned here. The monster continues to talk, revealing to the inquirer that the only one who can lead is him. Confused, Leo questions what the beast is talking about. Ian tells the kid that the beast isn't talking about him, but about whoever it sees in the hallucination. Turning to the merman, the boy asks him to spill who he sees right now that can lead the city. Under the spell, the monster announces the person to be Prince Orunos. Huh, where'd the U come from? Then again, who cares? The name's so cool. Hearing these words, Kay gets alerted, getting questioned by Ian if he knows him. The blob reveals that the Mad King used to speak of him, the person who was the champion of the Mad Gate before the boy. Curious, Ian inquires what happened. Hesitating for a bit, Kay remarks that he doesn't know. He mentions that the Mad King just stopped talking about him after a bit. Ah, that sounds sad. Is that so? Ian's words slip out in a low, contemplative murmur as he swiftly dispatches the merman with a deft stroke of his blade. The once ferocious adversary now lies defeated, a testament to Ian's skill and insanity. Amidst the aftermath of the battle, Leo, a witness to this impressive feat, remains utterly spellbound, the kid's eyes widen with amazement and respect for his companion's prowess. In the midst of the charged atmosphere, Ian takes charge while Leo stands behind him awestruck. Emphasizing the importance of the enigmatic figure known as the Mad Prince, the boy reiterates with an unwavering conviction that this individual possesses the unique ability to traverse the boundaries of Atlantis, as this fact could hold the key to their goals. Ian proclaims that they are going to pay him a visit. The ship that arrived earlier in the city is now stuck inside a building, ridden with corpses of adventurers. Having forced Ian and Leo to escape, the wizard walks through the ship. Suddenly, she gets ambushed by a group of survivors. Remarking that they aren't bad for a bunch of surface dwellers, the monster casts a swirling spell with her palms, slashing the adventurers limb from limb. She then announces that coming here was a mistake for them, given that it isn't their domain. Falcon and Wen look on at the horrific sight from one of the cabins, witnessing the beast poking and prodding the corpses. The leader remarks that the wizard is by far the fiercest of the monsters that they have seen since coming down here, getting reminded by Wen of his suggestion to leave the ship behind. As the latter says that they should have done that earlier as the enemy was bound to send someone dangerous eventually, Talia questions what his next move would have been in that scenario. The lady wonders if they were to just barge into enemy territory, not even knowing what's out there. Wen thinks that in the end, it would be better than being sitting ducks and getting slaughtered like it. Talia disagrees, needing more time to analyze the situation. Geez, get a room you two. Falcon jumps in to calm the two of them down before they start throwing hands. But it's too little too late. The commotion has attracted the attention of the wizard, who stands towering before the trio. Getting struck by the monster's magic, the three top ranks of the Silver King's guild jump away just in time. In the blink of an eye, Falcon appears behind the wizard and uses Ignite. Forming a blade of flames, he goes to slash the beast, though she ducks instantly. Moments later, Falcon's flame sword starts fizzling out. Frozen in place, the leader gets asked if he is surprised. The wizard mocks him for being idiotic enough to believe that fire magic would work in the ocean, kneeing Falcon in the stomach. Remarking that the adventurers are dumber than she thought, the monster brings the Silver King's rank 1 to his knees. Bro was all bark and no bite. Classic. Struggling to breathe, Falcon looks back on all his big talk before this moment. He came here to make his guild the greatest, the best in Herodia. Conquering Atlantis was just the beginning to their ascension towards that goal. Falcon remembers that everyone put their faith in him as their leader, believing that he would make it happen. However, he has failed them on this quest, over and over again. Falcon has let his guild members down. Standing beside the corpses of his comrades, the leader wishes that he could save them, that they could turn back. However, Falcon has no choice, because of him. Seeing the silhouette of this mystery person overshadowing him all his life, the Silver King grabs his fizzling flame blade and takes a stand. Maybe Falcon can't turn back. Maybe he can't save those who have already been lost, but the one thing he can still do is look ahead. Bursting forth in an explosive fiery aura, Falcon vows to use every ounce of his power to protect everyone here. Though he is instantly shut up by the monster. Not wanting to entertain Falcon one bit, the wizard strikes his face with a thunderous knee. Talia and Wen shout out for their leader, who has been sent rolling on the ship's deck. Cracking her neck, the monster tells Falcon to just die without putting up a fight as she hates insects that squirm. She turns towards Wen and Talia, telling them that she has questions for the two, announcing that they will be coming with her. Suddenly, a huge flame ignites from where Falcon was laid down. Erupting from the fire, the leader proclaims that he already has enough dead friends on his conscience. Enveloped in a burning golden glow, Falcon gives the monster a middle finger and tells her to screw off. Nevermind spoke too soon. Bro's cooking, mocking him for being so polite. The wizard squares up to the leader, flaring up in a blue aura of her own. The end, for now. Reborn as the Mad King's protege, Yan seeks revenge against all those who wronged him. To this end, he finds himself in Atlantis, ruled by Prince Orunos, completing a survival quest and killing a beast called One Eye. Yan gains a skill called Infection that lets him transfer madness between himself and another target. Following the boy, the Silver King's Guild arrives in the underwater city where they get attacked by a magician. Now, their leader Falcon begins fighting her off. Stuck in one of the underwater buildings, the Silver King's massive ship lights up with a blinding glow. On board its deck, the fight continues. The wizard jumps back, casting a magic spell to block Falcon's incoming barrage. Frustrated, she tries to outmaneuver the flames while falling off. However, Falcon gives the magician no room to breathe. Cigar in his mouth and an infernal blade in his hand, the guild leader leaps forward. With all his might, Falcon swings, directly clashing his fiery weapon with the creature's magical seal. Moments later, the spell vanishes as if it was burned off the face of reality itself. A wild explosion follows, sending the wizard flying off into a building. Flung with a mighty force, she shatters through the structure's windows and goes rolling on the ground. Veiled, the magician soon manages to find her footing and gets back up. Populated, the building is filled with other sea people boasting a merman-like appearance. All of them get startled by the sight, looking on in complete awe. Still recovering from the brunt of the previous impact, the wizard isn't even fully off the ground yet. In the blink of an eye, Falcon appears before her. Witnessing this feat, the wizard can't believe that a mere adventurer is charging at her like this. Just as Falcon gets all up in her face, a huge bang rings out in the building. Lit up by the sheer radiance of the resulting glow, the other sea creatures in the vicinity look on in awe. Meanwhile, standing atop the ship, Wen and Talia become frozen in place. The two can't believe the power at display, baffled that their leader is going all out like this. Talia in particular has a look of utter disbelief across her face. Unable to remember the last time she saw Falcon like this. Back over in the battle, the Silver King's headstrong captain marches on, enveloped in his infernal aura. As he expected, this fight wasn't going to be that easy. It would be if Dude didn't have a severe skill issue. No. A loud stomp echoes from the corner of the barely intact room that has been turned into a pile of debris. Falcon's fire engulfs the area, surrounded by bloody corpses of the sea creatures buried underneath the rubble. Furious, the wizard's huge diver mask crumbles away and reveals a head of white hair. She can't comprehend magic flames that would burn this intensely even this deep in the ocean. The creature catches a taste of Falcon's fearsome gaze, realizing that she is up against a dangerous foe. Bursting forth her very own bright blue aura, the wizard remarks that bringing him in alive for questioning is no longer a priority, declaring that she would much prefer Falcon as a corpse. A chain of large-scale explosions follows, shining a blazing glow throughout the underwater city. The flames run wild, even getting spotted by Eon in the distance. Seeing the giant ship, he wonders if it is the same one that belonged to the Silver King's Guild. Eon is sure that Wen and Falcon must have handled the uprising by now, or at least he hopes for that to be the case. Saying this, he pulls his bloodied sword out of the sea creature's corpse. Accompanied by Leo, Eon towers over numerous bodies of the merman-like beasts, declaring that they will find out what became of the mutineers soon enough. Over with Falcon, he clashes with the monstrous wizard once again. As the leader's massive flames collide with the creature's oceanic blue aura, he inquires if she is the Atlantis Dungeon's boss. Grinding her teeth, the wizard tells Falcon to count his lucky stars that she isn't who he thinks she is. The creature pushes back the guild leader, declaring that he wouldn't stand a sliver of a chance against the mighty prince. With a fearsome glow in her eyes, the wizard charges forward, asking Falcon if he was really naive enough to think he, a mere human, could outmaneuver her in the water. Extending her hand out, the creature attacks the flame wielder with a twirling beam of energy. Unable to dodge in time, Falcon faces the full brunt of the attack and is sent crashing to the ground. Looking on, Talia and Wen panicky call out for their captain. Though while his own comrades worry for him, Falcon's opponent is sure that he isn't finished yet. Towering over him, the wizard tells him to get up. Lo and behold, the guild leader still has fight left in him. Witnessing this sight, the creature braces herself. Now that One Eye is gone, this is finally her chance to prove herself to the Mad Prince, Orunos. To accomplish this goal, she will start with slaughtering the foe standing before her. However, the exact same train of thought goes through Falcon's mind at this standoff. Now that he has made it to Atlantis, it is finally his chance to prove himself to the member of the Four Horsemen, Silence. Just like the wizard, he marks the start of this goal by eradicating his enemy off the face of the planet. Man stole her whole flow word for word, bar for bar. And so, the two fighters charge at each other with a ferocious intensity, brimming with their respective auras. The collision between Falcon and the wizard sends sparks flying everywhere. Their energies mix, match, and clash, resulting in an almost firework-like display. Massive shockwaves ripple across the underwater city, making even Talia and Wen struggle to keep their footing on the ship's deck. However, as the dust settles, a horrific sight awaits the Silver King's members, leaving them in utter dismay. Falcon's attack is dissipated, and the guild leader stands getting choked out by an ominous creature. Bursting forth with a villainous aura, the Mad Prince Orunos reveals himself. He is furious at the feeble shrimp that have dared to invade his kingdom, declaring their level of power as pathetic. The wizard calls out from behind, trying to say something to the prince. Suddenly, a purple ray of energy pierces her. It is Orunos' giant axe-like trident, going through the creature's body and making her cough out blood everywhere. Telling his underling to shut up, Orunos proclaims that servants that can't even do their jobs are useless to him. He continues to choke out Falcon, ordering one of his merman-like companions to take the eye patch freak, along with Talia and Wen, to his throne room. Seeing the ruthlessness of the Mad Prince, the Silver King's rank 2 shouts out, telling him to let go of their captain or else. Wen follows, shouting at Talia for her rash behavior instead. He remarks that she will do nothing to endanger herself in such a manner, asking if she understands that they stand before the mighty dungeon boss. Orunos hears these words. Turning to the duo, Dungeon Boss, is that what you adventurers call it? He condescendingly inquires. While Falcon gets taken away, the Mad Prince approaches Talia and Wen, appearing in front of them in an instant, almost as if he blinked to their location. With an enigmatic grin on his face, Orunos announces that they should know about him being much more than that. Moments after this declaration, he calls out pressure of the deep and tells the duo to grovel. Just then, both Talia and Wen fall to their knees. Unable to hold on or even move, the Silver Kings rank 2 and 3 crash onto the ship's deck. Stuck face first to the floor, they can't believe that the horrifying Mad Prince was able to enhance the pressure of the water in a flash. Orunos turns around to his underling, commanding him to pick up the adventurers and take them to the throne room. The sea creature questions what he should do about Eurybia, the wizard. Commanding the beast to leave her, the Mad Prince declares One Eye and Eurybia to be a waste of talent, given that they couldn't even kill a few adventurers. He remarks that he will just have to replace them with other offspring. Right then, Orunos feels an ominous aura overcome him. Alerted by this energy that is much like his own, he glances over to someplace else. This energy he feels belongs to Eon, who has landed nearby and is on a sea creature killing spree along with Leo. Seeing his master distracted, the beast carrying Talia and Wen asks if something is wrong, to which the Mad Prince mentions that it's nothing. Zooming through the underwater city, Orunos announces that he will come to me soon anyways. After the Mad Prince leaves, Eurybia still lies unconscious on the ground. Suddenly, a foot comes stomping there and the popping of a bottle follows. It is a healing potion, making contact with the wizard's lips and getting fed to her. The person helping Eurybia isn't any sea creature, but Eon, accompanied by Kay and Leo. Reminding his friend that she tried to kill them, the blonde kid asks him if he is really sure about this. Eon truthfully remarks that he isn't sure at all, but he declares that the wizard will be dead in no time if she dares to turn on them. Hearing this, Leo questions if Eon knows how crazy he can be. I know, the boy says with a smile across his face. Hey, at least dude is self-aware. Right then, Eurybia jolts awake, confused where she is or what's happening. Looking around with her green eyes, she soon gets a blade pointed at her neck by Eon. Waving around his hand in front of the wizard, the boy mockingly tells her to rise and shine, with his smile turning into a villainous grin. Eon tells Eurybia that he has spent the past few hours butchering a lot of her friends, though most of them haven't given him the information he is looking for, details about the fish guide who betrayed her. Eurybia questions if Eon wants to know about the Mad Prince Orunos, inquiring if the Devourer hasn't told him everything yet. Standing in the back, Leo gets confused about what the wizard is talking about. Eon, on the other hand, is infuriated. The Mad King's prodigy wants to know if the creature can see Kay as well. Of course I can, remarks Eurybia, revealing that she is the daughter of the Mad Prince. Getting even more confused than before, Leo asks Eon what the wizard is talking about. The latter tells the former that it is a bit complicated. All the while Kay turns his attention towards Eurybia. Squinting his tiny little eyes, the blob tells the daughter of Orunos to help them get out of there. However, Eurybia doesn't possess the ability to do so, given that only the Mad Prince himself has the ability to escape the city. With a disappointed look on her face, the magician remarks that Orunos would never let them leave willingly. She talks of a machine that can reach the surface, one that can be powered only by a Mad Prince. Hearing this, Eon looks towards Kay. The duo starts wondering the implications of what would happen if what Eurybia is saying is true, revealing the boy's identity to her. Getting told that Eon is the Mad Prince that succeeded her father, Eurybia puts up her guard, inquiring if the reason they are here is because the Mad King sent him. Eon shuts down the magician's theory as false, telling her that he joined the adventurers without knowing any of this was related to the Mad King. Just then, Kay starts talking to Eurybia and asks her if she knows why Orunos relinquished his role as the Mad Prince. With a dismayed look in her eyes, the creature reveals that there are 3 infernal lords. Out of them, the Mad King is the only one sealed away. The reason for that is because the other 2 betrayed him. Thrown into the abyss, the infernal lord of insanity was cast into the space between logic and madness. Trapped for all eternity, the Mad King realized that there was only one way for him to escape this torturous fate. He needed a champion. This person would be someone that could represent his interests in the living world, someone that could set him free. Eurybia reveals that her father didn't like being a pawn in the Mad King's game, unwilling to serve as nothing but a tool for him. So he quit, turning to Eon. The magician remarks that he is the Mad King's new dog. While the boy just stares at her for the comment, Leo calls Eurybia out for it. "Ben, what are you?" The blonde kid questions. "Damn, bro really out here being a therapist pointing out her insecurities like that." Shaking his head, Leo reiterates that he doesn't understand anything about the Mad King and expects Eon to explain it all later. However, what he does know is that Eurybia has no right to call his friend a dog. Leo reminds the wizard that the very king she serves, her own father, cast her aside like unwanted trash. Eurybia lashes out, grinding her teeth and calling him a brat for talking in such a way. Though, Leo just ignores her and continues talking. He heard Orunos refer to the magician as his servant instead of who she is, his daughter. The kid is of the opinion that no good father would ever dare to treat his own flesh and blood like that. Despite all this, Leo gets where Eurybia is coming from, even though she tried to kill him. Dude must have learned the talk no jutsu directly from Naruto. Revealing that he recognizes that look in her eyes, the adventurer announces that he knows how much she despises Prince Orunos. Eurybia is unable to deny this, as the words resonate deeply with her. No longer showcasing the fierce and rebellious expression that she had across her face earlier, the wizard calms down. Seeing this, Leo lets out a gentle smile. He assures Eurybia that they are offering her a free ticket out of here. Even though he doesn't comprehend the intricate details, get them out of the city and back to the surface. And so, with the way he sees it, Eurybia only has 2 choices. Either she can decide to serve her father and leave them with no choice but to kill her on the spot, or leave him and escape this trashy place with them. Seeing the kid talk in such a manner, Jan smiles, looking on like a proud father. In his mind, he compliments Leo for being so good at getting through to her. Though, Jan still isn't sure if even all that is going to make the creature choose the right path. Suddenly, Eurybia begins to move and lifts her arms in the air. Jan puts up his guard, refusing to be caught off guard and killed. Much to his surprise, the silver-haired daughter of Prince Orunos announces that she is sick and tired of this place. The happiness the creature feels in the moment isn't something that she expresses. Eurybia had never thought that she would come across a couple of nutheads who actually think that they can overthrow Prince Orunos. Brimming forth with her oceanic aura, the girl reveals that killing her father and actually escaping was the dream she and her sibling, One Eye, had always imagined together. So, it was about time that she finally did it. Having joined forces with the Mad Prince's daughter, Hyun and Leo venture out, riding on the latter's giant magical swordfish to reach their target. Meanwhile, Orunos gets more restless with each passing second, with Falcon, Talia, and Wen all bowing before him. The prince wonders what's taking him so long. Overflowing with an ominous energy, he wants the new champion to beat over there quickly and challenge him. Awaiting Yin's arrival, Orunos paces around his throne. Suddenly, The giant door to the room bangs with a loud boom. Falcon, Taliad, and Wen, who are all bowing down before the Mad Prince, turn around to the sound. The thuds continue, making even the mighty Orunos put up his guard. As the gate to the throne room finally shatters, corpses of two sea creatures come flying inside, utterly decimated by whoever they were fighting. Confidently stomping his feet around, Ion walks in through the door, accompanied by Kay, Leo, and their newly acquired companion Eurybia. He proudly marches forward. "So, you are the prince I have heard so much about," the boy proclaims, announcing that it's a pleasure to finally meet the vicious entity. Seeing this sight, all of Orunos' subordinates get ready to defend their master in the blink of an eye. Of course, the proud prince doesn't cower behind them at all. Enveloped in his ominous aura, Orunos stands tall, calling out Ion for being the Mad King's new pet. In a condescending tone, he inquires if the boy was sent here by his lord for vengeance against his previous successor. Shutting all these allegations down, Ion remarks that he only cares about leaving this place. He assures the Mad Prince that there would be no need to pollute the kingdom with any more blood if he frees his friends and lets them all return safely to the surface. Furious at the intruders making demands in such a way, Orunos reminds them that they are the ones who entered the maelstrom in the first place. Looking down towards Falcon, he labels them the assailants in this scenario. "I mean, dude isn't even wrong." Orunos remarks how audacious the humans are for now wanting him to spare them after they have slain his people. Not only that, but they also plan on taking his rebellious daughter along with them. Bursting into a raging fury, the Mad Prince thinks about One Eye, questioning the adventurers if taking one child away from him wasn't enough for them. Though it does make sense to him that Ion would dare much such preposterous claims. After all, the boy did work for the Mad King. Letting his enormous aura run wild, Orunos reveals that he made a decision the moment the adventurers stepped into his territory. He extends out his hand, announcing that none of them are leaving this place alive. Rallying up his troops, the Mad Prince issues the command to eradicate the intruders. Following their master's orders, the underwater beasts charge forward. As this is in the realm of what they expected, Ion and the others prepare for battle. The boy unsheathes his blade, while Leo brings out his magical trident. Eurybia charges up her spell as well, while Wen readies his bow. The bout commences, and the wizard soon gets the upper hand against her foes. Casting her magic, she cuts up the multi-limbed creatures down to size. Meanwhile, Leo has a bit of trouble keeping up with the troops' underwater maneuvers. Unable to land a hit, the kid uses his summoning art, Sea Dragon. Out of the swirling scrolls, a giant and majestic creature appears, biting off the beasts one after the other, ripping them to smithereens. Ion also finishes off his share of the monsters, slicing 3 of them up in the blink of an eye. He stops for an instant to pull back his sword from the corpse of one of the slain creatures, getting attacked right at that moment. Kay shouts out, telling his partner to watch out. Though, there's nothing to worry about as a glimmering beam comes flying at the attacker and pierces through the beast's skull. Ion turns to where the cover came from, seeing Eurybia standing there making a finger gun, telling the blobby octopus to calm down. She assures him of having his partner's back. Kay starts throwing a tantrum about being called an octopus while not being one, while Ion thanks Eurybia for helping him out. Hey, don't assume his species dude. Just then, Orunos calls out the magician's name, inquiring what the hell she's doing. "You dare defy me? After everything I've sacrificed?" The Mad Prince proclaims, reminiscing his life up till this point. Orunos sees One Eye and Eurybia as children cowering before him. He remembers himself falling into the abyss, scared to face the infernal lord of insanity. Orunos wonders if they even know what he has lost to the Mad King, remembering the moment he decided to give up being his champion. As a young boy, Orunos stands before a scenic beach. He can no longer do what is asked of him anymore, preferring to die rather than continuing to serve the Mad King. In his moment of weakness, a voice calls out for Orunos, questioning if he wishes to be free from his madness. "Then serve me," declares a tentacled beauty, wearing a crown identical to a trident. Revealing herself before Orunos, this is the infernal lord Tiamat. Embracing the young boy, the enchanting creature invites him to come towards her. Tiamat tells Orunos to leave behind the Mad King and instead become a champion of the sea, going back into the water. As the lady's limbs swing around over the water, the boy gets captivated by the sight. Being at the end of his rope and wanting a way out, Orunos marches towards the sea. His mind had been warped from years of service to the Mad King, so he isn't even sure if the sea is truly calling out to him. Orunos wonders that his eyes might have played tricks on him, or if this is all real. 10 years pass after this incident, and his ship paths over the same ocean. Atop the boat, a couple bickers about it getting late. The feisty blonde woman tells her brown-haired husband that Leo was expecting them hours ago, getting told that he can't help the weather as the wind is against them. Remarking that today's catch was bountiful, the man is sure that their son will forgive them for being a little late. Suddenly, Leo's parents hear a voice ordering them to stop the ship. Oh no, that's what it was. Following this command, the sky turns to black. Alerted, the couple brace themselves, wondering what is going on. Right then, the ocean erupts into an upwards whirlpool. Standing on the twirling water is none other than Orunos, telling all those on board the ship to not be afraid. Tiamat's champion looks down on the humans, announcing that he is there to welcome them to his kingdom. The corpses of Leo's parents lie on the ship deck, getting marched around by Orunos' stomping feet. Looking at the bloodied bodies of the sailors who met their cruel fate by his hand, the monstrous prince calls out their audacity for always thinking the sea is where they are free. In his twisted mind, it is their fault for not knowing already that there's no such thing as freedom in this world. Meanwhile, a little kid stands on the same shore that Orunos once stood on where he met Tiamat. This is Leo, bawling his eyes out and wondering what's taking his parents so long. Starting to lose hope, the poor kid questions if they are even coming back. Orunos pops out of the water nearby, looking at Leo with a disgusted look on his face. He takes an offensive stance, getting ready to kill the crying kid. Suddenly, someone calls for Orunos to stop and grabs his arm. This is Eurybia, who tells her father that he has killed enough of the surface dwellers for one day. Annoyed, the prince asks his daughter how she left Atlantis. Looking at her, he gets particularly enraged, questioning the girl what she is doing here without her helmet. Lashing out, Eurybia tries to tell her father that humans will eventually come after us if he keeps up this hobby of slaughtering them. The future magician then answers his inquiry, revealing that she snuck out in that thing he was in to see why he has been disappearing to the surface. Eurybia is baffled, not knowing what could make Orunos hate this world of humans so much that he would personally come here every day just to massacre them. Not entertaining any of her daughter's concerns, the prince announces that they are heading home. Orunos ruthlessly warns Eurybia that he will remove an eye from her if she sneaks out again, just as he did with one eye. Not possessing the strength to stand up to the prince, the poor girl can do nothing but fall in line. Someone rescue her dude. As the terrible father drags his daughter back to the underwater city, a young kid keeps standing on the shore, waiting for his loving parents that would never come back. Ian once asked Leo why he became an adventurer at such a young age. What drove him to start a lifestyle so early this dangerous? He had asked the kid if his family was okay with this and received a non-answer. However, Leo was questioned about the same thing by when he got recruited by the Silver Kings. The guild's rank 3 told the former that he was too young for something like this, inquiring if Leo was sure about this. At this moment, the kid grinned at his teeth. Never being more sure of anything in his life, Leo felt the sea calling to him. Sure enough, the sea did call for him. Through his venture with the Silver Kings, Leo not only met Eon, but he also finally stands before the man who was responsible for murdering his parents. Facing the blonde kid, Orunos tells him that he thought he recognized him, with the same disgusted look he had back then. The prince looks down on Leo and remarks that he is the brat that cried for his parents that fateful day. Hearing these words, the kid has his suspicions confirmed once and for all. Filled with an intense fury, Leo turns towards Orunos, blaming him for being the reason that his family never came home. As the kid's eyes get distorted by his rage, Eon receives a prompt from his system of the Mad Gate. It is a new bounty quest, named Deep Sea Vengeance. The quest dictates that he must help out Leo by slaying the king of Atlantis and avenging his parents. You are kidding me, Eon mutters, getting asked by Kay if he was really planning on making peace with the Mad Prince. Nah, someone stop dude thinking like this before bro becomes the next Hokage. However, the boy shuts down the blob's theory instantly and tells him that he just wasn't sure if they needed Orunos alive to use the machine to get to the surface. Right then, Eon spots Leo charging mindlessly at the king of Atlantis without a second thought. Panicking at the sight, he shouts for his friend, but is too late. Leo quickly engages in combat, throwing his magical trident at the Mad Prince and his throne. However, Orunos dodges the incoming attack just by tilting his head slightly. The trident goes flying into the wall behind the Atlantis king, shattering it with a loud bang. And so, despite the immense speed and surprise factor of the strike, Leo misses. Moments later, the blonde kid announces that he has saved a special summon for an occasion like this, the moment he finally gets his vengeance. Popping out a massive gourd-like scroll, Leo summons a glowing gauntlet. The weapon brims with energy and possesses a spiked appearance, fitting the kid's hand just right. Emanating from the gauntlet is an aura reminiscent of the aura that the sea creatures put out, shocking Eurybia. Even the king of Atlantis himself is baffled at the sight, questioning Leo about where the hell he got that. Who cares? The kid remarks, closing the magical scroll. As he does so, a massive aura overcomes him and the spiked gauntlet. Leo reminisces about his life with his parents, something that Orunos stole from him. Memories of how he used to go out farming with his mother and father flow through his mind. Images of happy dinners with them fueled his drive for vengeance. At the moment, the only thing that matters to Leo is that the Mad Prince perishes today at his hands. Leaping forward, he tells Orunos to die. Leo's glowing gauntlet becomes concentrated with a huge amount of energy, which starts swirling around as if it were a galactic vortex. The luminance that shines from it lights up the entire throne room, leaving no corner untouched. Overcome with this monstrous aura, Orunos stands frozen in place, unable to move away. This time, Leo's attack doesn't miss. He must have aimed labs. On the contrary, the spiked gauntlet seemingly makes direct contact with the face of the Mad Prince and sends him flying out of Atlantis with a thunderous force. Having succeeded in his attack, Leo huffs and puffs. "Serves you right," the boy shouts out, finally exacting his vengeance upon Orunos. Or so he thought. In the same instant blinking manner that the Mad Prince had appeared before Talia and when earlier, he shows up beside Leo. Tiamat's champion bursts forth with an ominous aura, leaving Leo in utter awe. Concerned for his friend, Ion calls out the kid's name. At the same time, Eurybia is in complete shock as well, not knowing how this is even possible. Orunos taps Leo's shoulder, complimenting him for being quite strong, at least as far as surface dwellers go. Letting out a vicious grin, the Mad Prince proclaims that Leo will never be strong enough to avenge his family, not while he is the one being hunted. Ignoring these comments, the kid shakes himself off and gets ready for round 2. Leo concentrates even more power into the gauntlet this time, brimming with the oceanic aura. However, Orunos blocks the ferocious attack with only one hand without breaking so much as a sweat. Satisfied? Asks the Mad Prince, instantly commencing his counterattack. In the blink of an eye, Orunos' hand grabs the face of his foe, making his grin even sharper. He mocks Leo for being so slow and feeble. The Mad Prince then declares the kid to be pathetic, referencing the way he is clumsily flailing around in his seas. A little possessive. No. Suddenly, Orunos lets go of Leo's face and instead lifts his leg up in the air, bringing it down with intense force, right on the adventurer's head. Getting utterly crushed by the monstrous impact of the strike, Leo falls face first to the ground. As the rest of his body catches up with the fall, Orunos summons his mighty trident. Right then, a beam of energy comes flying in his direction, easily spotting the attack from a mile away. The Mad Prince lifts up his free hand and blocks the ray of light. The glimmering light coming from the approaching attack disappears, revealing water underneath and falling to the floor under the weight of gravity. This was a desperate attempt by Eurybia, who tried to bail Leo out of his conundrum. Of course, her effort amounted to nothing in the end. Dissipating his daughter's attack, Orunos tells her that she should know better than to use water magic on him, mentioning that he thought he taught her as much. Dude is almost as bad as a certain Fullmetal Alchemist father. Seeing this, Ion steps between the Mad Prince and Eurybia. The boy mockingly remarks that the terrible father must really love the sound of his voice to be giving so many lectures. Proclaiming that this is a family affair, Orunos tells the peasant to wait his turn. Ion apologizes, replying in the same vein that he can't help it because he is an impatient guy. Fair enough, mutters the Mad Prince. Jumping forward, he envelops his gigantic trident in an enigmatic energy. The King of Atlantis proclaims that he will make this quick for the boy, instantly closing the distance between the two. Ion prepares to defend himself, unsheathing both his blades and holding them in front of his chest with a cross formation. Breaking past this, Orunos swings with his trident, nearly grazing by the boy's face. However, Ion doesn't get held up by this one bit. Much to the Mad Prince's dismay, the boy brings his swords across and pushes down on his trident. Ion manages to push aside Orunos' weapon and goes in to slice his neck. Seeing this, the Mad Prince brings around his aura-filled weapon and applies a fence as his defense. Forced to duck, Ion moves towards the ground. Good. Now, on your knees, announces Orunos. Brimming with an immense energy, the Mad Prince calls out his pressure of the deep. With this, everyone in the throne room falls flat to the ground. Falcon, Wen, and Tao Liao are unable to move even slightly, getting their entire beings stuck to the floor. Eurybia is brought to her knees, not being able to stand up anymore. The same thing happens to Eon, who gets stuck in the ducking position that he assumed to avoid Orunos' trident. Trying to stand up, he feels as if a building is crashing down on him. Overwhelmed by this sensation of getting crushed, a slight poke from Orunos' trident ends up sending Eon to the ground. Sticking his trident deep in the boy's back through his backpack, the Mad Prince charges elsewhere, leaving it there to keep Eon down. With each step of his feet, the ground beneath him shatters. So much for Mad King's new champion. Orunos mocks Eon and labels him as just another expendable brat. Man just keeps spitting bars. He then directs his attention to Eurybia, reminding her of his promise to take an eye from her if she ever disobeyed him again. In this case, Orunos announces that he will be making an exception. Instead of taking one eye, the Mad Prince will scoop out both of her eyes before killing Eurybia. Since she's going to die here anyways, he wants to hear her scream one last time. And so, the ruthless father towers over his scared daughter, looking down on her as if she were trash. Eon lays on the ground with the trident of the Mad Prince stuck in his back. The boy is bleeding out blood everywhere, unable to move a muscle. Kay worriedly tells Eon to get up, expressing concern over the fact that he will die if he doesn't use a health potion soon. Witnessing the sight of the adventurer fading away, Wen frustratingly calls out for him, questioning Eon if he is really going to let the stupid fish bastard take him down. Talia tries to get up and say something, once again being told by the Silver King's rank 3 to keep it to herself at the moment. Remarking that this isn't a D-rank dungeon like they had initially thought, Wen announces that they were tricked into coming here. Amidst all this chaos, he is sure that all of them saw Eon's prowess in full display and could tell by one glance that he is the strongest one here. Falcon grinds his teeth, being too prideful to admit this fact out loud. Despite this, he knows this to be true in his heart and doesn't deny this statement. With all in agreement, Wen calls out for Eon to get the hell up, shouting that this measly attack isn't enough to do him in. The guild member proclaims that they are not going to die here, riling up the adventurer to get himself together. Having lost a lot of blood, Eon's eyes become stripped of any sliver of life in them and he falls unconscious. Just then, an ominous voice questions Eon why he is holding back. In the same vein, this voice inquires why he isn't using the power that gave him. Woken up by this call, Eon finds himself in the middle of nowhere. Towering before him is none other than the mysterious creature, who the adventurers thought to be a Kraken earlier. Floating in front of the beast is a throne, sitting atop which is the infernal lord of insanity. With a ferocious look in his eyes, Eon calls for the Mad King, remarking that this quest to the underwater city and their current turmoil all comes back to him. Still referring to the giant creature of madness behind the Mad King as a Kraken, Eon gets told to not call him as such. Someone educate these people to stop assuming things. They about to get cancelled. Playing around with his cards, the infernal lord of insanity reveals that the monster is named Chulu, the Mad Prince of the Sea. The master reminds his protege of when he and Leo fell into the deep sea, questioning who the boy thought spared him and his friend when they had nowhere to go. Wondering how Eon thought that they ended up in the underwater city, the Mad King announces that all of it has been his will. Still possessing a stern look on his face, Eon wants to confirm if the infernal lord led him to Atlantis to exact his revenge. Precisely, precisely, precisely. The Mad King repeatedly shouts out, holding his hand above his face in a crazed fashion. The insane entity asks his protege if he really understands his position. The Mad King reminds Eon of the reason he came to him in the first place, his insatiable hunger. Cast away and pushed aside by the world, the boy found his path with the infernal lord of insanity. Just as the four horsemen betrayed Eon, Orunos betrayed the Mad King. Saying this, the latter remarks that the reason he gave the adventurer a second chance at life was not so he could destroy his own enemies. Rather, it was so Eon could eradicate all those who stood against the infernal lord. Swinging around his cards once more, the Mad King tells his protege not to worry as he is an empathetic man. He assures Eon that he wants him to win too, announcing that all the boy has to do is sate his hunger for vengeance. Once Eon manages to do so, the insane entity promises to let him have his fill, revealing the face of the two cards in his hand, one with Falcon and the other with Silenus on it. Looking at the portraits of the two men, both possessing a similar physique now that they are being seen side by side, Eon wonders if the Mad King is trying to tell him that they are somehow related. Throwing the cards at the boy, the infernal lord of insanity leaves the decision up to him. Eon could either cast his life to the depths again or live. Of course, this is a no-brainer for the boy, As the cards boasting Silenus and Falcon float through the abyss to pass him by, he grabs a hold of them. Choosing to face this situation head-on instead of rolling over and dying like he did in his past life, Jan forces himself to get up. The Atlantis King's trident still pokes through his back, coming out the other side through his chest. Despite this, Jan gets up, ignoring the puddle of blood that keeps increasing in size from the drops dripping out the trident. Madness enveloping his entire being, the boy appears behind Orunos. Eurybiad is awestruck by the sight, unable to believe that Jan is still able to stand up. Wen, who was a staunch believer in the boy's might, lets out a wide smile. His faith in the adventurer had paid off, and now the enemy was in for a treat, turning around towards the Mad King's protege. Orunos can't believe that Jan is able to resist the pressure of the deep. With seemingly no regard for his life, the boy shucks out the trident from his back. As blood gushes out from the wound, Jan crazily remarks that he has finally found a selfish reason to kill Orunos. Is that so? Asks the king of Atlantis, wondering if the crazy old bat offered him a deal for it. At the same time, Kay starts talking to Ian. The blob questions his partner if he has some sort of plan to deal with the situation, considering that he is losing a lot of blood and his health is dropping fast. Letting out a grin, Jan assures Kay that he has a certain scheme, but it's just a little too crazy to say out loud. Confused, the Devourer wonders what the boy could possibly be talking about. Orunos has the same thought, and he quickly moves to get it out of Jan. Appearing at the latter's side in an instant, the former inquires what plan he is talking about. With a quick motion of his hand, the Mad Prince slices apart Ian's arm right off his shoulder, sending it flying off along with the blade the hand was holding. Blood gushing everywhere, the boy falls to his knees in utter agony. Extending his hand out towards Ian, Orunos tells him to die. The palm of the Mad Prince begins to glow with a blinding light, forming into a spiral-like ball of his aura. As the concentration of energy begins to grow, it envelops Ian and sends ripples across the entire throne room. Witnessing this mighty display, Eurybiad worriedly calls out for the boy, having dealt with the annoying champion of the Mad King. The king of Atlantis looks to proceed with what he was doing before, dealing with a family matter. Suddenly, an enigmatic aura overtakes the surroundings. Falcon, Talia, and Wen are left shaking in their boots, while even Orunos feels shivers down his spine by this ominous energy. 10/300ths. This is Ian's HP at the end of the Mad Prince's barrage. No longer having any more of it to spare, the crazed boy shouts out, "Infuse! Infuse! Infuse!" Dude finally lost his mind. Huh. Bursting forth with the madness of the infernal lord of insanity in all its glory, Ian runs wild. With no regard for his mental state or his madness meter, the boy spams infuse like there's no tomorrow. Ian's entire body gets enveloped in the same manner. His arm becomes a claw when he uses infuse, just not on a much larger scale. Left awestruck by this sight, Orunos mutters, "You can't be." The king of Atlantis starts getting hit with the realization that the Mad King's new champion isn't all bark and no bite. At that point, Jan's madness meter skyrockets to 73/100ths. However, he only laughs like a maniac at the sight. Going all out, he continues using infuse. The boy's body, that had already been engrossed with madness, begins forming layers upon layers of the mad energy over itself. 82/100ths. Jan doesn't stop. 94/100ths. The Mad King's protege still hasn't had enough. Even using infuse on his blade, the boy's madness meter goes up to 97/100ths. Orunos can't help but grind his teeth at the sight, no longer having an ounce of his usual calm demeanor. Perfect. Jan suddenly shouts out, having finally gotten up to 100/100ths madness, leaking his ominous aura everywhere. The boy marches up to the Mad King's ex-champion, staring intently at Ian's current state. Orunos can't believe that he sacrificed his mind for this immense power. Right then, the boy begins grinning and laughing maniacally. Seeing his demeanor change in such a manner, Eurybiad calls out for Ian and asks if he is alright. Giving her no response, the Mad King's protege continues to laugh out crazily. Turns out, it is no longer Ian in his own body, but the infernal lord of insanity himself. With his entire being brimming with an ominous aura, the Mad King remarks that he didn't think the brat would actually let him in. "I didn't think we would ever cross paths again, Mad King," says Orunos, confirming once and for all that Ian isn't in control of his body anymore. Eurybiad looks on in disbelief while the infernal lord of insanity revels at how lucky he has gotten to have picked such a desperate brat as his champion. As the madness continues to course through the throne room, Falcon, Talia, and Wen lie on the ground, helpless and terrified against this entity, who seems to be far worse than the king of Atlantis who brought them here. Putting up his claw to his face, the Mad King announces that slaughtering Arunos after he abandoned his side is the vengeance he has always wanted. The former champion shakes himself off, summoning his massive trident. Vengeance? Aruno's questions reminding the infernal lord of insanity that he is the one who suffered by being his pawn. Jumping forward, the Mad Prince jabs Ion's body with his trident. Much to the dismay of the King of Atlantis, the Mad King just slightly tilts his head to avoid the incoming attack. Bro thinks he is Luffy after the time skip, getting increasingly frustrated. Arunos tries to assault his foe with a barrage of high-speed strikes. Making ever so small movements, the Mad King easily avoids all of the incoming blows. With his infused claws, a revived lord grabs the prince's trident, inquiring if he needs to be reminded of the decades that he left him stranded. Pushing down Arunos' trident, the Mad King jumps forward, extending the infused limb of Ion's body that was sliced off by his foe. He strikes the King of Atlantis with a thunderous punch to the face. The sheer impact of the attack sends Arunos crashing to the wall of the throne room. The force behind the punch is so massive that even the sturdy structure can't hold the prince in, and he gets sent flying out into the underwater city. Shocked by the sudden appearance of their lord, the sea creatures gather around him, inquiring what is going on. With an expression of great panic, Arunos commands the beasts to sound the alarm and mobilize everyone. Right then, the Mad King appears near him. Having his vines-like aura of madness swirling around Ion's body, the infernal lord of insanity snaps the necks of every sea creature on the way. Fearing what is about to happen to him, Arunos calls for pressure of the deep. Though, he isn't even allowed to complete the incantation. Closing the distance between them in less than an instant, the Mad King forcefully grabs the prince's mouth with his infused claw, announcing that there will be no more tricks. This time, he strikes the Atlantis King's torso with a crushing blow. Once again, Arunos is sent flying into the distance. Colliding with the walls of one of the buildings in the underwater city, the Mad Prince goes through it and ends up rolling around on the ground, arriving at the library. Shush, quiet in the book place, people. He picks himself quickly, trying to prepare for whatever's to come next. Suddenly, a voice calls out for him, referring to Arunos as Lord. It is the librarian, who now stands in harm's way. Much to the dismay of the Mad Prince, the attack he awaits never comes. Confused, Arunos looks to his side and finds the ruthless infernal lord of insanity with the librarian's head in his hands. Having ripped apart the poor sea creature with his infused claw, the Mad King questions his foe if it was all worth it. He pushes Arunos to answer if casting him aside to become Tiamat's little seahorse worked out like he imagined it would. Having a ferocious look on his face, Arunos stands his ground. He tells the Mad King that he took everything from him, announcing that if there was ever an insane thought that crossed his mind, it was because of the deranged being. Is that it then? The infernal lord of insanity snarks, asking Arunos if he took the easy way out because his mind was too weak. Hearing this comment, the prince gives his former master a disgusted look. Letting out a menacing grin, the Mad King remarks that it must be nice for Arunos to have been given an entire city under the ocean to himself while he was trapped, floating endlessly in the space between logic and madness. The infernal lord of insanity stomps his feet towards the Atlantis King, revealing that it took a lot of planning to get Ion to this point. It started with Kay convincing him to take this quest, proceeded with Chovel capturing Leo, and concluded with throwing the boy to the maelstrom, right to Arunos' doorstep. Getting back his cool demeanor, the prince cracks his neck. He congratulates the crazed entity for tricking some dumbass into giving him his body, announcing that all of it means nothing if Ion is easy to break. Arunos proclaims that even if the infernal lord of insanity is a king somewhere else, this is his kingdom. As the library starts getting surrounded by sea beasts, the Mad King lets out a massive grin, questioning Arunos if he really thinks he is getting payback. No, shouts out the King of Atlantis. He has been dreaming of this for decades, the day when the Mad King would find his way back to the real world. Stomping his feet into the ground, Arunos declares that the deranged being will get butchered by him for what he did. Instead of retreating, the Atlantis King charges towards the Mad King. As the two overlords clash auras, the infernal lord of insanity bursts into a wider grin and begins cackling with tears. No wonder this crazy dude got locked up. The Mad King is amused that both of them want revenge on each other, when he has been under the impression that he was one-sidedly hunting Arunos. Pissing off the latter, the crazed entity blows off his tears and announces that this has turned out to be a fantastic day, one in which all of the Mad King's old friends are coming together. Meanwhile, outside Atlantis, the infernal lord of insanity's other protege shows up. Letting out a ferocious roar, the Mad Prince of the Sea. Cthulhu charges towards the underwater city. What exists in this world beyond logic? Wonders Eon, standing amidst a never-ending stretch of nothingness. Off in the distance, he notices something like a door. Vines growing around the bottom of the object. The ominous gate seems to be like a drop in the ever-expanding ocean of darkness. A mysterious marking is carved into the very essence of the door, shining with a glimmering light. No impassable, nothing's impossible. Over in Atlantis, Cthulhu enters the underwater city. The Mad Prince of the Sea goes on a rampage, eradicating every sea creature in its sight. Ouranos looks on, as the ocean begins turning crimson with the blood of his subjects. He turns to the Mad King, remarking that his vessel will die too if Cthulhu destroys Atlantis. "Is that so?" remarks the crazed being, twirling around his infused claws in a mocking manner. He questions Kaorios if he managed to find it. The blob quickly comes to his side, giving an affirmative response. Kay reveals that the Leviathan Piercer is located in the southern part of the city. Hearing these words, Ouranos gets frustrated and bites his lips. Ayo? Oh, not like that. Never mind. On the other hand, the Mad King finally understands why everyone is trapped in the underwater city and is unable to leave. Being a mighty object, the Leviathan Piercer requires an insane amount of madness to power it, something which no one possesses. Saying this, the Mad King simply starts marching away. Ouranos shouts out at him, questioning where the hell he thinks he is going. Gritting his fang-like teeth, the Atlantis King is enraged at the audacity of his foe for thinking that he will just let him walk away after everything the deranged entity did to him. Saying this, the former champion remembers himself as a child. He holds the body of a dead woman in his arms, one with a giant hole in its chest. Right then, the infernal Lord of Insanity turns around. With a stern stare, he labels Ouranos a coward for putting the blame. "Did you forget?" the Mad King asks him, telling the prince that he was the one who killed her. Hearing these words, an image of his own crazed self appears in the mind of the Atlantis King, piercing the helpless woman without an ounce of remorse. Enraged, Ouranos summons his trident once again and charges at his foe, deciding to put an end to this revenge story once and for all. The Mad King announces that he will now show Ouranos the difference between them. Raising his infused claw up into the air, the infernal Lord of Insanity bursts into a maniacal grin. He always be doing that at this point. The face on Ian's body appears to distort, half of it being that of the Mad King himself, his eyes turning into a spiraling madness. The divine entity calls out, "Fisher." With this call, a colossal burst of dark energy envelops the entire underwater city and its ruler. At the same time, the Silver King's members and Eurybia attempt to escape the throne room. Holding Leo in her arms, the magician looks out through the shattered wall along with the others. However, the sight that awaits them leaves everyone utterly awestruck. The Mad King stands tall on the battlefield, retracting his hand from the formation point of a massive crater that seems to be extending for miles on end. With the King of Atlantis finally taken care of, he starts to move towards the Leviathan Piercer. As the infernal Lord of Insanity turns his back to the area destroyed by him, he gets alerted by something. From the other end of the massive crater, Ouranos comes flying, having a deranged expression on his face, with his appearance reminiscent of how Eon looked when his madness meter was reaching its peak. The Atlantis King throws himself at the Mad King. Forming a swirling aura around his fist, Ouranos lands a thunderous strike at the torso of his foe. The latter faces the brunt of the full-force attack, coughing out blood. Quickly following up so as to not diminish the impact of his punch, Tiamat's champion monstrously kicks the Mad King off the ground. Ouranos then swings his fingers around, striking Un's body with a huge beam teeming with oceanic aura. He throws the Mad Kings towards the buildings of Atlantis, announcing that he no longer cares if his whole kingdom crumbles. Consumed by revenge, Ouranos strengthens himself even more. His body gets bigger, ripping apart the robe he was wearing. The energy powering the Mad Prince makes his pupils completely disappear, and the overwhelming amount of it begins leaking out his eyelids, as the tremendous power spills onto his entire being. Ouranos proclaims that he will sacrifice it all, shouting out "Pressure of the Deep." And just like that, another brain bites the dust. Buildings all over Atlantis start crumbling, turning to dust. The escape attempt by Falcon, when Talia and Eurybia gets thwarted in the process as well, sending them all to the ground. Suddenly, Ouranos appears before his daughter and towers over her. Shocked by the ominous look of her father, Eurybia stares at him in disbelief. Not even making eye contact with the girl, the King of Atlantis proclaims that everything he did up to this point was to protect his family. However, he now realizes that's never enough. Witnessing shoulder ripping through every living creature in its sight, Oruna's remarks that there is no safe haven in a world as cruel as this. Meanwhile, Eon approaches the mysterious door he saw in the abyss. Inspired by the carving, he grabs its handle and heads inside. Entering the mysterious gate, Eon finds himself in an ominous place, overcome by a chilling feeling. It is a rocky area, with tiny islands floating all around. Suddenly, a vortex of energy forms in front of Eon. Getting pushed back by the pressure of the aura, the boy hears an eerie voice from inside the tornado. "It's been a while since I have seen a soul this lost," the enigmatic entity remarks, possessing a horned silhouette like that of a demon. Taken aback by the proclamation, Eon asks the mystery person to identify themselves. The latter complies, blowing away the aura around him. Having the appearance of a suit-wearing tall imp, the creature announces that he is the boy's guide in this crazy place. Hearing this, Eon questions how he can get out of this place. With glowing eyes, the imp shows a wild smirk on his scar-filled face. Announcing that the answer to Eon's question depends a great deal on where he wants to get to, the guide asks him about it. The boy doesn't know what to say, and his hands start shaking. Eon realizes that he doesn't remember how he got here in the first place or where he came from. Grabbing his head, the poor guy feels as if he is losing his mind. Right then, the imp tells Eon that it doesn't matter which way he goes if he doesn't know where he came from. Clapping his hands, the guide gives the lost soul a helpful hint of how to get home. Suddenly, a pathway appears to him, leading to a maze of sorts. As Eon walks towards the path, the imp assures him that he can remember how to get home if he remembers where he is. Determined to get back no matter what, Eon marches forward, while the guide behind him bursts into a maniacal laughter. Entering the maze, the boy meets Haya. Shocked at the sight, he asks her what she is doing there. Haya puts her hand to her heart, revealing that she heard what the four horsemen did to him. And so, the knights set out to find Eon. However, she has been lost here for so long that her mind has gotten affected. Feeling it crumbling away with every second she spends here, Haya implores Eon to save her, showcasing vulnerability like she has never before. The girl hugs her childhood friend, remarking that she can't stay here, asking him if he will protect her. "You promised, didn't you? Help," Haya mutters, fading away from Eon's embrace. Overcome with an intense sadness at first, the boy quickly snaps into a fit of fury. Witnessing this from afar, the imp gets surprised and intrigued as this wasn't the reaction he was expecting. Eon walks onwards into the maze, coming across the four horsemen. They are sitting around a table, having the times of their lives. As the boy grits his teeth, Arian remarks that he is just in time for tea and invites him over. "Nah, this is foul. Man, really? Tea?" Eon furiously questions his audacity to say such a thing. He reminds the four horsemen about how they betrayed and killed him, even though he trusted them. Arian just continues to pour out tea and asks Eon how he can blame them. A sacrifice was needed for the Mad Gate and his life was expendable. That's all there was to it. Silenus chimes in, telling the boy to stop being ungrateful. Sipping on his cup, the brute remarks that millions will live because of the sacrifice that day. Alexandria follows, nonchalantly saying that Eon shouldn't take it so personally as they didn't willingly kill him, and it's just how things ended up. Having had enough of the horseman's nonsense, Eon finally turns to Tor, checking to see if the guy he used to look up to feels any remorse for what they did. "For power, any sacrifice is worth it," says Tor, without any ounce of hesitation. Hearing the man's response, Eon bursts out into a crazed laughter. The four horsemen have finally said the truth out loud, admitting that they killed him for power. Brimming forth with an ominous energy, Eon calls out the four horsemen for being so keen on sacrificing him, despite having the option to leave the dungeon together to look for another solution. "I died for nothing," the boy proclaims, charging at Arian. Announcing that these pathetic excuses just help the four horsemen sleep at night. Eon starts brimming with madness, using infuse in the blink of an eye. He digs his claw into Arian's chest. While the rest of the adventurers look on in disbelief, Eon tells them that he meant what he said. One day, the four horsemen will get what they deserve. Pulling out his claw from Arian's body, Eon grins wildly, harnessing the power of the Mad King again. The grassy fields in the maze turn to crimson, soaked in the blood of the four horsemen. Tor, Arian, Alexandria, and Silenus all lie lifeless on the floor. Eon towers over the adventurers' corpses with bloody hands, staring at the sight with a sense of disbelief despite being the one who created it. As the boy hucks and puffs, Tor's body suddenly begins to speak, spitting blood with every word that comes out of his mouth. The Rank 2 World Adventurer questions Eon how it feels to finally have his vengeance. That's the thing. The Mad King's prodigy remarks, announcing that he is starting to realize something. It is not vengeance that Yon is seeking, but justice. Justice. For the horsemen not valuing a life no matter who it belongs to. Justice. For their selfish ignorance and immoral actions. Justice. For his own suffering and the betrayal of the people who he looked up to. With an almost sad look in his eyes, Yon declares that he will make sure to inform the world of the false heroes, as merely killing him will be a mercy in comparison. Spoken like a true Geva Chad. The bloodied corpse is overcome with an expression of shock and regret, letting out a sigh. Tor silently mutters, "I see." As the body begins to fade away, Yon reminisces about his time with him. For years, the boy wanted to be just like Tor, the grand hero of Herodia. Get better idols? No. However, now An knows that he will never be anything like him. Instead, the Mad King's champion vows to be better. Let's go, finally free from the shackles. Praising Eon for having come such a long way. Tor disappears. Seeing this, the suit-wearing imp begins laughing maniacally. The guide could have sworn that Eon was about to snap, but he couldn't have been more wrong. Putting his hand over his scar-ridden face, the entity proclaims that this shouldn't be possible. Just then, the maze begins to clear itself. Eon had done the impossible. He had discovered logic in this world of madness and paved his own path home. All the walls in the labyrinth arranged themselves in a straight line, guiding the boy straight to a door at its end. Back over in Atlantis, the Mad King calls out Orunadas for spouting nonsense about doing everything to protect his family. Calling him an idiot, the former reminds the latter that he butchered his wife and gouged out his offspring's eye. The infernal Lord of Insanity then mocks him for being such a loving family man. Though, he supposes that the blame can't be put on Orunadas as the amount of madness coursing through his veins would have driven anyone a little crazy. Ignoring these words, the King of Atlantis walks away from his daughter, instructing her to use the Leviathan Piercer and leave. Eurybia tries to stop her father, but he doesn't listen. With a sad look, Orunadas remarks that he has many regrets in his life and doesn't expect her to understand the reasoning behind his actions. Despite not having done the best job at showing it, the prince assures Eurybia that he cares for her. Hearing these words, the girl bursts into tears. Orunadas continues, telling his daughter that he wasn't always this cruel. There was a time when even he was happy and kind, but that old self of his was killed long ago. Reminiscing about sharing his happiest moments with the woman he mercilessly killed, Orunadas vows to avenge the version of himself that the Mad King killed. And so, he summons his trident, charging at the infernal Lord of Insanity. Grinning maniacally yet again, the deranged entity tells his foe to stop going on about petty revenge and grow up. Orunadas replies that he will consider it once the Mad King is dead, disappearing from his sight, somehow reappearing behind his foe. The King of Atlantis gains an upper hand for a second and strikes the divine being with his trident. However, the Mad King easily avoids the incoming onslaught and counterattacks, breaking the prince's trident with his infused claw. Dude is just flexing at this point. As an apprentice challenges the master and a peasant challenges the king, the Mad King's former champion now challenges his previous master. Finding this to be hilarious, the infernal Lord of Insanity inquires how cocky an individual must be to think that the weaker can win. Uttering these words, the Mad King strikes Orunadas with a thunderous blow to the chest. With his eyes almost popping out of their sockets at the impact, the Atlantis King gets sent flying through the crater. Bouncing around against the rubble like a skipping stone, Orunadas goes crashing into a building, collapsing under all its weight. Concerned for her father, Eurybia turns around and calls out for him. "Oh, that's funny," remarks the Mad King. Seeing the girl still here crying, he questions if she should have been running for the exit instead. After all, Eurybia is next in line to face his wrath. Shaming the girl for missing her once chance of escape that was given to her by Orunadas, the Mad King threatens to attack Eurybia. Refusing to go out without a fight, she summons a magic circle and forms a gigantic vortex of water. However, the infernal Lord of Insanity is just too fast, appearing in front of Eurybia in the blink of an eye. He grabs her arm and negates the spell. Grinning crazily, the Mad King remarks that she should know better than to fight back against someone like him. As Eurybia grits her teeth, he prepares to finish her off. Suddenly, Orunadas comes charging back at the maniac. However, the Mad King simply turns around to catch him mid-stance. "It's been fun," he remarks, summoning a golden beam at the end of his infused claw. The glittering light bursts open and mixes, striking the King of Atlantis directly in his chest, seemingly burning a hole through it. "Rip Bozo, you will be missed." As Eurybia worriedly calls out for her father, the Mad King tells her not to waste her breath as Daddy is not going to protect her, announcing that all Arunos ever does is take, and take. The infernal Lord of Insanity reminds Eurybia that she was the one who turned on him in the first place. He inquires if the girl has had a change of heart or if she is just desperate for someone to save her. Infuriated by these comments, Eurybia casts another water spell, proclaiming that she will kill the Mad King. The girl aims her magic directly at his face. However, once again, the deranged entity simply strikes her arm aside to break the spell. With his infused claw, the Mad King grabs Eurybia by the neck and lifts her into the air. Squeezing her neck, he expresses how much of a shame it is that she will need to die for the sins of her father. Right then, something grabs his leg. It is Arunos, still desperately clinging to life to protect his family, even while blood gushes out of the massive hole in his chest. Du becoming a better parent with each passing second. Absolute W. Letting out a vicious smirk, the Mad King asks the near-death foe why his family is suddenly changing their minds. After all, Arunos didn't give a crap about his children before and was actively trying to kill him. Aren't I supposed to be the crazy one? The Mad King snarks. Seeing his father's attempt at saving her life, Eurybia starts crying like a little girl and tells him to get out of there. This makes the Mad King question if it's something as absurd as unconditional love that is keeping the father and daughter bonded like this. With a sinister smirk on his face, the infernal Lord of Insanity proclaims that weak bonds like theirs are just asking to get cursed. Du really talking like no one has ever loved him before. Ha. And so he lifts up his infused foot and crashes it down on the head of the Atlantis King, popping it like a balloon. Wow, that felt good. The psychotic being remarks while Eurybia gets filled with despair at the scene. Tears begin flowing uncontrollably down the scared girl's face as the Mad King turns to her to finish the job. Right then, a sensation of agony overtakes the infernal Lord of Insanity and he falls to his knees. The Mad King can't believe this is happening, as it should have been impossible for him to break out. Damn you, Eon. This is my body now. Do you hear? Mine. The deranged entity fades away before getting to complete the sentence. With this, the vessel returns to its rightful owner. No longer possessed by the Mad King, Eon's body resumes its normal appearance. Coming to, the boy finds himself facing a scared and crying Eurybia, who is guarding herself against him. Looking around, he sees Arunos' corpse, asking Kay who killed him. I think you know the answer to that, the blob tells Eon. As the entire group feels down about the current circumstances, Chulu continues to rampage around in the underwater city. The end, for now. Eon couldn't believe his eyes, the sheer amount of destruction that he caused while he was possessed. Kay tells him that he's reached 100 madness, causing the Mad King to take over. Eon's shock turned to anger at this, his eyes whirling towards Kay and asked if they knew that such a thing would happen if he ramped up his madness to 100, and if so, why Kay didn't tell him anything. Kay's reply was that the Mad King didn't tell them what happens when Eon reaches 100 madness, with Eon calling Kay a liar. Kay definitely knew that side effect. Meanwhile, Eurybia mourned for her fallen father. Eon immediately tries to apologize. After all, even if he wasn't conscious about it, it was his body possessed by the Mad King that dealt the blow. Eurybia is actually pretty understanding about the whole thing, but says that it's frustrating that there's really no one that she should be mad at. Besides, her father always said to her and her sister that the Mad King was the cause and center of all the suffering in his life. Besides, now that he's dead, Eurybia is free to do as she wishes. In her eyes, it's close enough to the freedom that she wished to have, and with that, she stands up and walks off, saying that she will show Eon the Leviathan, as Cthulhu will destroy Atlantis in less than an hour. That monster is a bloody menace, I swear. Eon doesn't join up with Eurybia though, but says to her that he knows the relationship that she has with her dad is a complicated one, and that he's sorry that the whole fight ended in his death. Even after all the stuff he went through, Eon still has compassion. He asks Eurybia if there's anything he could do, but she cuts him off, saying that she knows that her father did horrible things, torturing, killing, and making people suffer. She prayed for years for her own father to die so that she could be free. And yet even after it happened, even after all the things that she went through and all her anger, she didn't expect to feel the emotions she's feeling right now. Eon realizes what Eurybia felt at the moment, saying that what people feel in any sort of happenstance doesn't have to make sense, and that it's okay to grieve. After all, even if Eurybia's father did all those terrible things, he's still her father. As we cut towards Eurybia's face, showing hot tears flowing from her eyes. Words of wisdom right there. Seriously guys, cry if you need to when you need to. Meanwhile, Leo wakes up from being unconscious being carried by Falcon, while he and remnants of his guild are making their way to Leviathan while keeping a close eye on the monster currently wrecking Atlantis. Leo asked what happened to Arunos, as he was knocked unconscious by the prince's blow, but Falcon said that Eon killed him. Honestly, the best thing that could have happened. Leo could have died without Eon there. Eon and Eurybia catch up to them and went inside the Leviathan's chamber. It's here that they see actual Leviathan that would get them out of Atlantis. A technological marvel, a submarine, because it makes sense for the dungeon reward of Atlantis to be an Archaeotech sub. Eurybia said that only a mad prince could power the sub, and asked if Eon can actually power it. Eon, knowing that he doesn't have a choice, tries to do so. Meanwhile, Falcon looks at Eon in suspicion, as he believes that there's a connection with Arunos and Leon somehow, calling Eurybia a thing in his mind. Kinda rude thoughts from him, but he's being Seuss. Eurybia tells them all that there's a magical barrier around the Leviathan sub that only Arunos could tear down. Leo wants to try breaking it, but Eurybia tells him that not even her and her sister were able to penetrate the barrier, and only a descendant of the Mad King can wield the sub. Well, more champion than descendant. At those words, though, Falcon's memories were peak as he remembered his mentor Silent's words about how in their last dungeon clear, the four horsemen had to sacrifice Tor's assistant to someone called the Mad King. And that Tor's assistant was a young swordsman, with a personality bright like the sun. Falcon was already pretty suspicious about the fact that an unknown adventurer joined their quest for Atlantis out of nowhere, with abilities so strong they exceed A-rank adventurers. He wonders if Eon is actually Tor's apprentice, the one they sacrificed in the Mad Gate. He figured it out pretty quickly once he got all the puzzle pieces together. Meanwhile, Eon managed to destroy the barrier holding the Leviathan, with Eurybia and Leo cheering at the fact that they can get out of Atlantis now. Talia and Wen eagerly joined them inside the sub, but for a moment, Falcon stayed behind, stupefied, before a small grin formed on his lips as he hummed in thought. He's plotting something. Now that they're inside the Leviathan, however, Eon, Eurybia, and Leo look a bit off their depth. They have no idea how to activate the Leviathan so that they can escape Atlantis, which makes sense. It's practically old tech from a different time period. Falcon asked Eurybia if she knew how to pilot and use the Leviathan, but she denies, saying that she's never seen Arunos pilot it when he was still alive. Meanwhile, Leo does a Leo thing and presses something on the control panel, saying that since they have no idea what to do, they might as well try some stuff. Honestly, a good idea in hindsight. Still, Eon didn't manage to get the warning out on not touching anything when something clanked from outside the sub. Leo assumed that the button press didn't do anything, with Eon being relieved at the fact that nothing was messed up, until the Leviathan lurched upward as the thrusters activated, sending them out of Atlantis. It all slammed back on the wall from the speed of the sub's acceleration, which is pretty amusing. Eon sees Eurybia staring back at Atlantis and asks if she was alright. Eurybia, though, doesn't know what to feel, as even though she wanted to escape Atlantis and be free, said freedom isn't as sweet as she thought it was, probably because said freedom meant her sister and father died. Eon doesn't refute this, saying that he gets what she meant, but Cthulhu doesn't seem ready to let them go, chasing the sub furiously, and it's gaining on them. Wen panikedly asked Helia to do something as she furiously pressed several buttons, causing the Leviathan to gain a surge of speed, escaping the sea monster, to the joy of Wen, Eon, and Leo. It didn't take long for the Leviathan to reach the surface after that. Leo sank on his knees as he landed on solid ground, exclaiming that he never thought that they would make it back to the surface, much to his joy as he thanked Eon while crying profusely. Eurybia just said that he's being dramatic, which he is, but we can cut him some slack, I think. Falcon, though, stared at Eon in particular as his suspicions about Eon's circumstances continued to cast his mind in doubt. Seriously, Falcon, he saved your bacon alongside Talia and Wen. He walks forward. Wen is pretty excited as well, as he wants to recount the whole quest to the guild, while Talia wants to rag on the guild as they categorize said quest as a low-rank mission even if it's supposed to be an A-rank quest. Eon asked Falcon what he's thinking, when suddenly, Falcon summoned his blade and swung trying to kill Eon in one blow, but Eurybia got in front of Eon and took the hit. Leo is surprised at this and begins his weapon summoning, but a kick to the face sends him flying away. Eon of the Mad Gate, Silenus mentioned you, but I couldn't put two and two together. Falcon said, turning towards Eon. Who would guess that you survived? Who brought you back? Was it the Mad King? He asked furiously. Seriously, he couldn't just ask politely instead of going for the kill. Wen and Talia looked on in shock at what Falcon did. After all, he's backstabbing the one that saved their lives. Falcon said that Eon is the same person who took Silenus' eye, and said that the guild will pay quite well if they bring him in. Wen doesn't agree to this, as Eon did save them, before asking Falcon if all he cared about was just to suck up to Silenus, who he called a damned horseman. Pretty apt. Wen didn't hesitate here, and knocked his bow towards Falcon, calling him a shitty liar. Falcon stated that the Silver Kings are nothing without Silenus, and asked Wen who he thinks puts food in their stomachs. Wes coldly retorts that he never asked the one-eyed gorilla that was Silenus to feed him. Absolute savage words right there. Meanwhile, Eon got past his shock as the power of the Mad King flowed forth from him right then and there, saying that it's perfect timing that Falcon was Silenus' apprentice, as he can deliver a message from Eon to him as he drew his swords. He's ready to kick some traitor ass right then and there. Falcon's pretty ready to throw hands right then and there, same with Eon, with the latter having some leftover frustration from the fact that the four horsemen betrayed him. In Eon's words, he's going to take out his frustration at Silenus' part in the whole thing on Falcon, which is pretty understandable. Falcon didn't like that, and dashed towards Eon, saying that he can't wait to drop off his head on Silenus' desk, his flaming blade trailing behind him. Eon said that it's a bit pathetic how scared Falcon was of Silenus, but it's something that he understands, as back when he was weak, he used to be scared of Silenus as well, before dodging Falcon's initial thrust and swing, and crossed his swords at Falcon's neck. Eon asked if he thinks it's a bit on the silly side that Falcon is attacking the same guy that saved his ass, which it is. Falcon didn't say anything to this and attempts to kick Eon's head, causing him to just land a vicious haymaker on Falcon's cheek, telling him that he'll just have to teach Falcon a lesson. The haymaker was infused with the Mad King's power, sending Falcon flying into the forest. Pretty nice punch from Eon there, not gonna lie. Kay asked Eon why he didn't just off Falcon immediately, given the amount of power that he currently has. He probably could. Also, Falcon did betray Eon with this stunt. Eon, though, needs Falcon at this moment as he's Silenus' apprentice and he needs to deliver a message, charging forth towards Falcon's landing spot while Wen, Leo, and Talia rushed to the fallen Eurybia. As Eon reached Falcon, he asked him why someone as strong as him was willing to go so far for Silenus, who Eon thinks is pure scum. Falcon didn't answer this and roared out for Eon to show himself, which Eon didn't. Stealth is a viable strategy after all, something that Falcon really doesn't like as he thrusts his sword on the ground and burn a whole portion of the forest. I suppose Silenus will have to be okay with a charred corpse, he said. Hardcore. The attack didn't do jack though, as Eon is suddenly behind Falcon, noting how desperate he was and that Falcon really does fear Silenus quite a bit, which is pretty sus. Eon doesn't hesitate and grabs hold of Falcon's face, then casted Hallucinate on his poor ass, causing Falcon to see Silenus instead of Eon. Seriously, Hallucinate is such a goated skill. Eon asks why Falcon is afraid of Silenus, causing him to sing like a canary. Silenus has Falcon's family, then forced Falcon to create the Silver Kings of the Shadow Guild, guilds where the official leader is nothing more than a puppet, with the leader being someone behind the scenes. As for why Silenus did this, why to do some good old-fashioned tax evasion, of course. As always, money corrupts men. In addition to this, if the Silver Kings fail to impress Silenus, then Falcon and his family will be killed, with the quest to Atlantis being the last chance for Falcon to prove himself before his boss kills him. Honestly, an understandable reason for his actions. It doesn't excuse it though. Eon tells him that he can't fault Falcon for the desire to save his family. However, just because Falcon brought Eon's head to Silenus doesn't mean that they're safe. So long as he's alive, Falcon and his family will forever be in danger. So instead, Eon offers to kill Silenus in exchange for Falcon leading him to his location. The balls of this kid, I swear. After the whole chicanery of Falcon's betrayal, Eon, Leo, and Eurybia made their way from the ocean and into open country. Leo has Falcon in front of him, a sword on Falcon's back just in case anything happens. Leo isn't sure about this though, and asks Eon if it's something that he wants to do, as Falcon betrayed them after they saved the lives of himself and his two guild members. Eurybia also casts some suspicion on Talia and Wen as well due to this. However, Eon assured the two of them that the Silver King's guild would not be a threat, as we cut to Falcon's eyes, which has the slight purple glow of someone afflicted with madness. Specifically, a new skill called Mind Control, a skill that increases Eon's madness by +10, but victims with 30+ madness can be controlled. A pretty useful skill for someone that wants to do a bit of infiltration. However, there are drawbacks. The connection can be broken when they get damaged, hit with cleansing magic, or if their willpower is strong and Eon can only control up to 3 subjects. Still, I trust that Eon has a plan in that sneaky head of his. Kay praises Eon for this idea as he transferred the remainder of his madness to Falcon, then hitting the man with mind control. However, Kay is a bit surprised that Eon didn't kill Falcon, as he did betray him. Eon tells Kay that Falcon is someone that you will use to get close to Silenus, and thus is useful for the moment. Honestly, a pretty good plan. Still, Eon expected to be stronger after all the monsters/enemies he ganked in Atlantis, but Kate explained that anything the Mad King killed while he was in control of Eon's body wouldn't count towards his kills, meaning he doesn't get XP. The fact that the Mad King was able to control him was something that Eon expected to be the purpose of the madness system, and he suspects that Kay is accompanying him to urge Eon to give up his body to the Mad King. The plot thickens quite a bit. Kay stutteringly replies that it's not quite like that, and even if he's a servant of the Mad King, his main goal is to just observe and guide Eon, and that if he uses infection correctly, in theory Eon shouldn't reach 100 madness, assuming that everything goes Eon's way. Meanwhile, Talia has gotten pretty suspicious about Falcon's continued silence ever since his surrender to Eon, and assumed that he has done something to him. She's right, of course, but still. She stands up so that she can speak to Falcon, but Eurybia blocks her way, reminding Talia that Falcon betrayed them, and she's not allowed to talk to Falcon for the foreseeable future. Talia draws her knife to attack, but Falcon stands up and grabs hold of her hand, asking Talia what she's doing. He tells Talia that they were lucky Eon spared them after what he did, causing Talia to back down. Meanwhile, Eon looks at the whole event with satisfaction, as he realizes he can control Falcon's body using his thoughts, affirming his plans on using Falcon as his tool to kill the 4 horsemen, starting with Silenus. Mind control OP, please don't nerf. Meanwhile, Haya wakes up in the same void that Eon was in during his death, wondering how she got in this plane. The last thing she remembered was the fact that she discovered Eon's keepsake in the Mad Gate. The Mad King was pretty furious, and amused in equal measure. The fact that Eon was able to escape Wonderland and overwhelm the Mad King even though he's weak at the current moment really gave the Mad King a pickle. And now, Haya is on his plane, an acquaintance to Eon. The Mad King is planning something here. The Mad King heard Haya call out Eon's name near his altar, with Haya realizing that Eon is somehow alive. The Mad King confirms this, but implies that it's doubtful if he wants to keep Eon alive for much longer after Eon denied him use of his body, pissing Haya off. Now, Haya, I doubt you can kill the Mad King in your state. Not that the Mad King cares though, as he holds out a Joker card to Haya and offers her a deal. Back to our protagonist, he and his party have arrived to the capital city of the Herodian Empire, telling Eurybia a bit of human history as he did so. The Atlantean notes that the city is pretty, lively, unlike Atlantis. To be fair, they're underwater, so lively isn't something I can say Atlantis is. Eon asked if Eurybia is homesick, which she admits is a possibility due to the fact that there's nothing to return to. Talia, though, remarks that they may need to hide Eurybia's appearance as no one in the capital is used to seeing someone like her. The guards just let them in without issue though, suspicious. Wen then tells Eon that even if they don't want to join the Silver Kings, I mean, would you join the guild where the leader tries to backstab you? They're still required to stop by the guild hall, so that they can get some food and rest to plan their next move. It's the least Wen and the Silver Kings can do after saving them in Atlantis after all. Wen is a real one, on God. Leo was pretty stoked, as he was worried that they'll be homeless for the night, and asked Eurybia what her plans are now that she's out of Atlantis. She thinks about it for a bit, and says that if possible she wants to travel with Eon and Leo, and they'll have her as they're the only ones that she could trust at the moment. Leo also wants to travel with Eon and Eurybia as well, as without them he would have died in Atlantis, and killed the one who took his parents away. Looks like this is the start of a true companion's arc. He wants to repay the favor one day, and in order to do that, he's traveling with Eon. Eon downplays it a bit, saying that it's probably not a good idea for them to follow him, but the two of them insist, causing Eon to decide that he's going to tell them his plans. He can't have them be in the dark after all. He decides to talk about the whole thing when they're in the guild hall. After explaining the situation with some food and ale, Leo asks Eon if he's nuts. After all, killing the 4 horsemen means that monsters would overrun the Herodian Empire due to the dungeons going uncleared. Eurybia doesn't mind though, as the so-called heroes are corrupt, and that they may not be the only ones that can clear the dungeons. Yuri is pretty pragmatic about the whole thing. Eurybia also points out that Eon could take their place if he gets strong enough to defeat them, which is a good point, but Eon points out that even if the 4 horsemen disappeared, there's still one hero that stands above them, his friend Haya. Besides, corrupt heroes like them shouldn't be allowed to do whatever they pleased. Eon asks Leo if he should look the other way, ignore their crimes, with Leo going silent for a few moments. Leo affirmed his desire to join with Eon on his journey, but doesn't want to jump on the revenge bandwagon to take down the Four Horsemen because of a personal issue. So instead, if Eon could prove irrefutably that they're as bad as Eon said, then he's joining up wholeheartedly, something that Eon can handily prove, as in his eyes, he's recruited the perfect spy, aka Falcon.